because they were slow. Like, they were slow with their patches. It took like once every 3 to 6 months, and it wouldn't be enough.
Sure,
and so they didn't know what to do.
you.
And they would buff things like Reaper to try to deal with it, because Reaper was the tank buster. Rivals, Wolverine is the tank buster. And it's so genius that he does percentage-based damage based off your health. So he kills a squishy as fast as he kills a tank. And in Overwatch, if when they buffed Reaper super hard, he was just steamrolling all the.
No, Flats. No, that's not it. The reason why Reaper was steamrolling low rank lobbies was because they were killing the tanks.
All the metal ranks. And so one day there was a Reaper nerf, and everyone was like, why the fuck did Reaper get nerfed? Reaper's not even good. And I remember that patch, and everyone was just confused. And it was because Reaper was like dominating all of the metal ranks at the time. Rivals kind of thought about that with Wolverine. So I think that OpenQ works.
What the fuck? No, how Reaper dominated the low ranks, exactly the same as Wolverine will dominate the low ranks. What happens is the loop on the character is better at hitting on one tank than it is on 3 tanks. The more sustained, the less valid the actual counter is. So what happens is that Reaper goes from being basically unable to do anything into goats, which obviously the character can't do anything into goats because the moment they get anywhere near it, bubble, GM, completely invalidated, so it doesn't do anything. But into a composition with 1 tank or 2 tanks, Reaper f***ing feasts. And it's exactly the same with Wolverine. It's funny how when there's no life raft, everyone's really committed to the ship being upright. But then you give them 1 life raft and they all jump aboard immediately, right? They're all like, no, the ship's gonna, it's fine. Don't worry about it. The ship's absolutely stable. Don't worry at all. Then one lifeboat comes over. They all just f***ing sprint at it, yeet themselves off the side of the ship. And that's how I feel like everyone's been with Rivals. Oh, God. Yeah, as I say, I scroll through it a little bit. I've seen that they don't really disagree on anything. So, the great Marvel Rivals debate featuring no debating. But I'm here to disagree with everything they say. So everything's fine, right? We're going to have a Rivals debate, and it's going to be me yelling into the void, and it's going to be them shaking each other's hands and saying, yes, I am very smart. Yes, you are very smart. We should be smart together. Yes, continue being smart, etc., etc. Okay, let's go. Oh,
and will be answered after the podcast ends. All right, guys. Welcome. For another episode after a long time of the Group Up podcast. We're here for the great Rivals debate. Guys. And it has been a while since we left you, but I brought pretty much the stacked...
Since when was SK doing VTubering?
...of stacked lineups I could bring to discuss the newest gaming sensation that is Marvel Rivals. Let me introduce my guests who need no introduction, and we will get right into it. In the top right is my man, Flats. Flats, what's up?
Hello. It's been a while. I took a little break for a bit, and I'm glad to be back.
Glad to have you back. Glad to be back myself. It's been a long break.
Hello, Fresh. Let SVB get his bag. He's been doing this and probably not making enough money to get, he's probably, let's be honest, not been making minimum wage off of doing this podcast for the entire time he's been doing it. So fair enough for him for getting a HelloFresh app.
Podcast episodes are like, when's the next episode, SVB? Why aren't you done a great Rivals debate? So here you go, commenters. You finally got what you wanted. In the top left, mogging, as he probably will for the majority of the stream when he's not talking, especially, is Boger. Boger, what's up?
I think his anime channel, we watched an episode of his anime channel. Yeah, I think it actually suits his content style quite well.
It would probably be over.
What's up with you guys not liking VTubers? Yeah, I think VTubering is straight into Uncanny Valley for me. I 100% get why people don't want to be on camera, but I'd much rather they were like Necros and just didn't show their face instead of VTubering.
Still, SK, how many hours? It's just
honest. I don't know. It just seems
256.
200.
Maybe it's me. Maybe I just don't get it. But yeah, it's weird.
56.
Well, if you wanted authoritative opinions, here's some people who've no life Marvel Rivals for about a month straight. So
yeah.
Let's round out. But in the bottom left, SK, what's up?
I don't personally mind them. Spotted the weeb.
Hi, I'm reading French shows right now.
Mm-hmm. Is it purple by any chance? Because
SK's eating fucking food. What is up with these podcasts, man? So SK's got the VTuber on, so they don't have to be on camera, so they can eat. I know he's gonna be fine with it.
No, it's cinnamon.
It's actually rude.
Okay, well. It has been a while since I spoke to any of you, certainly about gaming topics. So, as we always do in this podcast, we'll begin.
This podcast was so awkward with a lot of silence after every sentence. Well, probably because SK's eating food and can't talk immediately, right? Not SVB, if you invite me onto this thing, do you know what I do? I pay for attention the entire time, at the very least.
That is...
You're a good friend, and I appreciate you. Just don't ever forget me again.
That was vaguely threatening, but yeah, fair enough. So, as we always do, we'll begin with just some opening thoughts, your general feelings. So, guys, yeah, I don't think I've ever asked you this question before, but your general feelings on Marvel Rivals, so that Boger cannot forget him.
Yeah,
we'll have
so
Flats go first again.
Yeah, have you heard of Marvel? Yeah, they have
Flats, what are your general feelings on Marvel Rivals? Give me a minute's breakdown.
Okay, we're looking for any remotely negative comment to do with Rivals, okay? Just let's tally them, all right?
That's gonna be
a minute or less. Minute or less.
I mean, the game is phenomenal. It's
phenomenal.
It's amazing that we are a month in and the game has, at least like meta-wise, has changed like 4 or 5 times. There's
what do you mean changed 4 or 5 times? Of course it changed 4 or 5 times. What are you on about? Nobody knows how to play the game. It's going to change 4 or 5 times.
constantly new text, new things being discovered. Characters that everyone thought was really bad the first week and being found out like pretty good. And then like
because people are kind of stupid.
Every week since then, it seems like a new one. Like my prediction is Captain America is going to be the next one that people figure out that's actually low key, like pretty good.
Oh, and it's going to be awful. Imagine when people actually realize. And Flats has done a video since I saw it on my YouTube feed of I climbed to GM on just Captain America. Yeah, of course it's good because it duels out all DPS angles, steals out angles, and makes it so you can't stand in the interesting places. Like that's pretty good.
Just people haven't figured out how to play them yet. And it's just like almost like there's always more to explore. There's more to do, and we're not even at season 1 yet. We're just 4 more characters. It is both an amazing experience, but also kind of stings a little to see this game have all these amazing features and all these amazing things that I know that myself and many others asked for in Overwatch for years and always got given the runaround on.
What features? Please tell me what other features apart from hero bands. Come on, like. Is it just hero bands we're talking about here? What is there anything else he's talking about?
Be done, or it take too long, or whatever, and it's all there and it all works and it's all good, and I'm just enjoying
all of it. So there's going to be multiple examples, right?
Right for right now.
I mean,
I give him the faction tournament stuff. No, the faction tournament stuff is good. As to whether it's actually working for engagement, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Streamer mode really fast? Yeah, true again. Streamer mode, fair enough. That was one of the things I remember them saying. I remember them saying that's going to take resources away from other things, which was kind of a crazy thing to say when all of their resources were going towards a different game that never got released anyway. Terrain is interesting. No, yeah, I think terrain is a mixed bag for the most part. It makes it harder to onboard the game, and it can be a little bit interesting. Team-ups too, I believe. I think team-ups is a uniquely bad thing that makes the game worse, but I understand why it's fun for the first month. Did we ask for team-ups, really? My trouble with team-ups, right? My trouble with team-ups is there's only 4 fucking team-ups that are actually team-ups, right? There's only like 4 of them. Every single other team-up is like, I randomly put an extra ability that has no relevance to the characters onto this guy's kit. Like Luna Snow and Iron Fist. When Luna Snow gets an AoE that moves enemies away. What does that have to do with Iron Fist? What does that mean? That's not even a team up. That's just you pick these 2 heroes and you get random arbitrary power. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If team ups aren't flavored really well, like Wolverine being thrown, I think the team-ups... Yeah, Spider-Man let Squirrel Girl have a third step. Yeah, is that really a flavorful team-up for these 2? They don't even need to be near each other. Like, yeah, Overwatch has hinted team-ups play of the game for years. I mean, yeah, there's definitely something to do with Overwatch 2 and team-ups that they had. Remember the Overwatch 2 trailer had Brig and Ryan's shield locking together and other stuff like that. I think the problem with team-up is that, yeah, as you said, I think the problem with team-ups is that they are bad, right? If they ever give you any power, they either make the character overpowered with it or underpowered without it. If they are flavorful enough, you don't want to pick the character unless you have it. If there is any power, you don't want to pick the character unless you have it. It creates kind of like incentive structure where people don't get to play the character they necessarily want to play. If the team up is actually good, what ends up happening is the team up gets banned once you get to a reasonable rank. So you boost yourself by using the team up, and then your character gets perma-banned once you get there. There's a I've said so many times, it really is one of those things where you want to make it so that the maximum amount of choice is in your game for what characters you want to be able to play at a time, and team-ups kind of go like straight against that. I also think they're really awkward for balance in general. Like, I don't think they're good. Like, I think they're just bad as a concept. Not that they're not interesting. I think they're very interesting, but I just hate them.
That's a really great summary, by the way. Thank you for that.
He's already put a pin in
the elephant in the room is that we'll eventually, as we are all Overwatch originators, or originally Overwatch streamers, we'll have to get to that part of the inevitable discussion at some point. But Boger, how about you? How have you felt about Marvel Rivals gaming?
It's good. It's fun. Slightly buggy sometimes, and the voice chat needs work. But I think the game is really fun to play. I think the fact that it maintains like 90% of its player base 1 month in is really cool, actually. It means a lot. And I think the characters themselves, depending what character you play, they have so much you can learn, and there's still things people are learning even at 1 month in. It's just so cool to just sit there and one trick. Because if I play tank, right? I play tank, and I learn Strange really well. If I'm bored from Strange, I can sit and grind Groot, and Groot has so many different things you can learn.
No, it's just a new game with things. Yeah, obviously there are things to learn. It's a new game.
Black Panther or Spider-Man, and there's like infinite potential to just keep having fun. And it was cool. And like Flat said, I think the fact that they did so many things that we asked for in Overwatch, and they did it immediately, says a lot. So I'm pretty happy.
How's it going? Give the TLDR of what you raged over so far. Nothing. I think. Never mind, Drake Medicine. Yeah, I haven't really seen anything. I think that people are glazing the game, and I understand why they're glazing the game. I think team-ups are completely degenerate. I don't think they're good to include in your video game in general. That argument's coming. And there's a lot of, wow, this game is so good. And I do think it's just people learning the game and enjoying learning new kits for the most part. But yeah, we're not too far in, so yeah, there's nothing really much to add. How are you doing anyway? You having a good week? It's nice to see you. Yeah, psychological violence guy.
I'm pretty excited. And I can play this game for 17 hours straight without mental breakdown, but without getting severely bored. So I think that says something.
When it comes to you, Booger, I think the mental breakdown is not really a control variable because it's
I
just
love
like
the
that's happening
freezing
everywhere.
at least once per fight. Yeah, it's really good when strange portals in behind you and you can tell it's there by the frame rate.
Doing that when you're playing Life Weaver, you're doing that when you're playing Jank. I think that's just regardless
it's
of
different
the game
times of mental breakdown because I'm having fun with this mental breakdown, but I was not having fun playing Junkrat, right? So
I find that all of the mechanically focused players love having all these deep kits to learn, and I just don't really care because I love the game flowing properly.
Differences here.
That's progress. That's progress. At least you're having fun while you're breaking.
Next stream's gonna be him talking about how team-ups are bad. Yeah,
probably will never recover. But in the bottom right is another recovering addict.
As with everything, I am the person that gives Spyler all his ideas, right? All of them.
Gross. How have you felt overall from Marvel?
Honestly, ever since I got to try it in the alpha, like when I first tried the game, I was like, whatever. I'm like kind of bored of Overwatch. Let me just try this game. I honestly didn't expect to like it as much as I ended up liking it, and pretty much after that, I was just like super hooked. But yeah, overall, I mean, I think the game is like really fun. I think it feels super polished. Maybe sometimes a little bit buggy. Some few things need to be ironed out, as Boger said, right? But overall, like I knew when I first played it, I knew this is not another Paladin. This is another Overwatch, you know, in terms of like polish, right? And really does
so just glazing, just benign glazing. Okay,
sort of like just the way the characters play. It sort of gives me that early Overwatch 1 excitement where people were kind of like hyped to like combo stuff, you know, like, I don't know, grab, drag.
Watch the video on the optimal graphics settings for the game, and most of the textures and stuff don't actually improve a lot over medium or under medium. So I just play it at medium now. Saves about 200 frames. Well, I play it all low, and it saves no frames because I'm at the minimum frames I'm allowed to be on in order to keep a stable 60.
And all that sort of stuff. Like it's all sort of like it's so fun to like theory craft about the game, right? And
it's just a new game.
I just think it's really fun.
Yeah, it's fun to theory craft, of course. It's a new game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sentiment is one I've seen a lot online, and I think we'll dedicate more time to
I don't think there is that much theory crafting. I think people are kind of thinking about it. People are like, wow, there's so much tech coming out all the time because strange portals exist off the map. And so, have you seen that the thing on Reddit earlier? Which is Strange Portal. I don't even know where they put the portal, but it had a visual effect of a sun, and they Strange Portaled that into the spawn. So it flashbang the entire spawn. I don't think that's intentional, but like there's like, oh, there's so many Strange portal texts, and it's like, no, there's that one map where Strange can portal you on both sides of the spawn and keep you in there for 15 seconds. That's cool, but apart from that, there's no real tech.
But I think you've already brought up a good topic there about gaming for a while, because there's been other games and we'll talk about them as well, but like, you know, Deadlock, for example, all of you played that, I know, but it seems like Marvel Rivals is here to stay. SK, how's your toast?
Hello.
And how's your feelings on Marvel Rivals?
I stopped eating because I got self-conscious that my mouth was moving. Marvel Rivals, I'm so addicted. The reason I have 266 hours in the last 30 days streaming is not because I'm on the grind.
You get like 20 frames over medium? I need those frames tied out. I don't have a choice.
It's because I'd be playing 266 hours even without streaming, so I might as well click the start button. During the alpha and beta, I actually did not have fun at all. I played it for like 6 hours and I was like, all right. This is fun.
Yeah, and I would have a lunge and Luna Snow's AoE get off me team up ability, and Anna's ult would be able to be used twice and give like 80%. Like they put the speed back into Anna's ult, and it would be like, oh, okay, well if everything's like that, I guess it's fine. But no, it just increases the power of ults to the point where everything revolves around them, and that is only. Have you tried putting your render scale down? Oh yeah, I just won't render the game. That's fine. That's a solution to the game being poorly optimized. I just won't. You know what? That's fine. You know what, Didact? You know what? If you want me not to render the game, I won't render the game. Where's the render scale? Where are you, render scale? I must change it so that is there anything more I can do to my settings? You're blind? I'm not blind. I'm not blind. I'm a perfectly functional person. All streamers are UI blind in some way, shape, or form. Have you ever tried streaming and reading something at the same time? Right? And asking people if it's there, not being able to see it? We'll go into a practice range and we'll see what that looks like. How many frames will I get, do you think, guys? Oh, look at these jaggies. Look at these jaggies, man. That's unlocked frame rate. I can get 120 frames that dips to 100 if I set my render scale to 30. Like, what the hell? Maybe I'll just play like this. It's just soft focus. You know what? I shouldn't have. You know, it's barely holding 70 like frames. Like, this is ridiculous. Come on, guys. Come on. Okay.
Remember that actually? I remember that you DM'd me about it, and you were like, I don't know if I want to play Marvel Rivals, and I was like, give it some time.
I don't know.
Just don't you have
Characters,
money.
the new characters that came out just like did it for me. They're so fun, and I play all of them. They're so freaking cool. And then what else? I still feel like
they don't look friendly.
people haven't figured out the game yet, and I'm wondering how long it's gonna last before we optimize the fun out of it, or if that'll ever happen. Because oh my gosh, I'm already playing against some really annoying things in ranked. Like
if that is such a weird thing to say. If that'll ever happen, if they'll ever optimize the fun out of the game. All games get the fun optimized out of them. That's just how it works.
Everything's unkillable. Infinite support ults. I'm going crazy. Yeah, that's all I got.
No, again, you're bringing up a good point that we'll definitely dwell on later. It's the charming period, around the honeymoon period, it's the fun period. We'll have to see how that lasts and how that progresses. But yeah, let's transition then into that discussion of like the wider gaming ecosystem, because a few of you've already mentioned it. Like the feel of it has been one that you haven't really felt in a while. Like that it captures some sort of excitement that maybe we haven't seen since, at least we personally might not have seen since early Watch 1. So my question to you is why? Why does Marvel Rivals seem to stand out as somehow different than some of these other competitors? Like I said, Deadlock is another one that people were hyped about, but now it feels like all of a sudden the sort of the train has hopped off onto Marvel Rivals, and it seems
they're evolving. Triple support meta is awful. Currently, Diamond 1 player, and I have a concern over the current meta going on right now. It's very common to see triple support comps with at least 2 defensive ults, and I gotta say, it's probably the worst experience so far in the game, and the only time I have had no fun. Just 15 seconds minimum of not being able to kill anything in a fight until the support ults run out. No fucking shit. No shit. If you put a shitload of sustain into the supports, and the worst part is they can't really reduce the support sustain. They can, but they can't cut it by like 30% because all the tanks are currently conditioned to be greedy support hogs. They just take all of the support from the guy, like, because that's the only way they can do things, because they're designed to be pokey and single target instead of being cleave. So we have this situation where if you do cut the support, you can do the support. Of course you can do the support ults. The support ults need to go down. Luna's Snow needs to go down to 8. Mantis needs to go down to about 6. And that would solve half of the problems. But it wouldn't solve the instant peel available on Adam Warlock. It wouldn't solve the fact that, I mean, the speed boost available on Jeff and the AoE healing of 140, cleaving healing per second on Jeff is ridiculous. It wouldn't solve all of that. So it's man, what are your thoughts? Oh no, time to put on a show, us against the world. Friends, gather round. Oh man, it's so bad. It's so bad. I can't wait until we have the GOATs meta picks, the triple support meta picks, where one guy picks Adam Warlock for the AoE heal, and the other guy picks Jeff because that's a guaranteed kill on the Adam Warlock. It's coming, guys. It's fucking coming, because Adam Warlock can't do shit against that. You just press the circle on the Adam Warlock, they're guaranteed to die 100% of the time, and they want to be in the middle of the team for the most part. Oh man, it's coming.
To be here to stay.
They don't want to be in the middle of the team, they want to be on an angle, but you get what I mean.
So, why Rivals? I'm going to go to Boger first this time. Boger, why has Rivals created some sort of secret sauce, or has it? Is it a false dawn?
Yeah, people made fun of me when I said Jeff is absurd. Jeff is absurd, but people can't play him right now because the bubbles are actually really good. His bubbles give 15% heal boost, I think 55 heal. I didn't think it's... How much are they healing on Jeff's bubbles? It doesn't really matter because the speed boost is like 60% for 4 seconds, which is crazy, right? You imagine you've got a melee DPS and these people can actually hit that across the map. By the way, these bubbles last for 3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes. And you can have as many out in the field as you're able to regen, right, every 6 seconds. So you can just put bubbles in all of the poking angles and just have it there in case people want to pick it up. The trouble is people will just mop them up. Yep, 3 minutes on the bubbles. I don't know if he can have more than 6 out, but yeah, it's crazy. Like any poking angle on the map, you can just put a health back there, right, and just keep it there. People currently playing Loki, Snow, and Cloak most optimally, and when you want to have instant kill ult, such a Magneto, just be able to kill something. Yep, you wanna be able to insta kill, yeah, through it. Snow, Loki, and Cloak. Yeah, I guess Cloak and Dagger's ult is good enough. I don't think Cloak is good enough in my. I guess the actual 3-second immunity in Cloak is pretty good for stopping insta kills. So that's probably a good part of the kit that people are crutching on. Man, but this game is going to be degenerate in like a week. It's so close to being degenerate. People haven't worked out the Adam Warlock stuff. The Miss Fantastic stuff quite as fast as I thought they would. Is there any sign from the high level as to whether that's being picked up or whether people have just not worked it out or whether it's actually bad? I need to know.
The characters are really popular. Franchise itself, so Marvel Rivals itself. So yeah, everybody knows Spider-Man. Everybody knows all these characters, and people just want to play them, and they're really excited to play as Spider-Man. And for example, Doctor Strange, Captain America, whatever else. Second of all, I think the game is a lot more accessible than Deadlock. Deadlock, you need to learn, like, you need to read a 1,000-page guide to actually understand the basics. That's not fun for a single father of 5 that came back from the overworld.
They're insisting Mr. Fantastic is trash. Yeah, interesting.
And Marvel Rivals, you just go in, you play Jeb the Land Shark, you hit 5-man ult, spit them out of the map or jump off, and instant dopamine. Awesome. I love it, right? Press ult on Psylocke, you kill 5. Awesome. Love it. So that is fun.
Yeah, but for every single time that you do something aggressive into the enemy team that's bullshit, they do something into you that's bullshit. So you see that there's like 1-to-1 conversion of fun to sadness. And when a game gets first released, people enjoy the fun. But as the game goes on, people stop enjoying the fun as much, and the sadness starts to creep up, and the frustration starts to creep up over time. So we're in the honeymoon period of every single ability right now. The first time you get ulted off the map as Jeff, you laugh. The 100th time you get ulted off the map as Jeff, and there's nothing you can do about it, you put down the control and you pick up a different game. Like, that's just how it works. Yeah, like, Overwatch 1 did start like that. People are like, oh, grabs an insta-kill. Haha, it's so much fun. Like, all of these things. Like, Blade insta-kill. Oh, it's so good. People haven't learned how to play around it yet. Blade insta-killing is so much fun. And then we had to make everything reasonable because people stop having as much fun doing it as they do lack of enjoyment by being murdered by it without counterplay, right?
And all of the characters are really hot and pretty. That is also another factor. It is 100% a factor. It is a 2,000% a factor. It's just nice to look at. The art style is nice. The characters are pretty. They're hot. They're handsome. They're muscly. Whatever else, And people like that. And that's why games like League also are really popular. If the characters in League were 50% less attractive, I feel like League wouldn't be as popular. I said it.
That's true. That's very true. And you can't disregard the fact that Rivals is clearly fan baiting to 13-year-old boys. You can't disregard it. Like, it is what it is. Like, Rivals is pretty aggressive in that manner.
There's some stats from over 50%. Yes,
50% straight. I calculated.
He did the maths on this one. Do you think that contributes to the popularity?
Oh, for sure. I wasn't planning on playing at all until I saw the clip of Necros being like, "What?"
It's your fault, Necros. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault.
I mean, in my defense, what was that zoom in? They knew what they were doing, right? There's no way it would zoom at that exact angle, right? Like, come on.
Oh, is that the thing where it zooms in on Psylocke's ass?
They knew they were doing that.
For context, there was a clip of the Psylocke Vengeance skin with her butt, and when the game starts, she turns around and the camera zooms in on her butt. Yeah.
I just find it so cringe. I don't know if I'm just a jaded old man at this point, but I find all of it like massive cringe. Like, I don't mind it, don't get me wrong, but all of the like focus on it and people like talking about it, like, and like I like having attractive characters in the game as well. Like, I have no problem with that, but it's like come on. Every time someone points it out and it's like, tee-hee, they showed an ass, I'm like, are we still 13? And the answer is yes, they are.
I don't know. The game just has some secret sauce. Like, there's so much to learn and so much to figure out.
So comparing it
to so much to learn and so much to figure out. That awkward silence app. Is there like
you put out some great Deadlock content, SK, and you streamed it a lot.
Of course there is.
And you grinded it a lot. So like compared to, let's say, Deadlock or obviously Overwatch, what is different compared to those? Boga already mentioned that maybe Deadlock is a bit more complicated.
Be right back.
Sure.
My issue with Deadlock.
I don't care about Deadlock.
Sorry, let me chew.
Let's skip this and go for the is it better for it to be unbalanced / wacky? Because this seems like just yapping still. And that's all they did for the first like 10 minutes anyway, so we may as well skip a little bit because we've got a little bit to go through and I want to get to the interesting parts. Is it better for it to be unbalanced / wacky?
It's like, do we need to fix things quicker? Does things need to be tuned? But it seems like Marvel Rivals' approach is actually we want the wackiness, we want a little bit of silliness, we don't want to sanitize it down to like a roll log. So talk to me about that. Does this actually show like a different way? Like, seems like games try to be more competitive, but is this a better way to be a bit crazy?
There's a couple of different parts of it. I've already said, like, people stop enjoying doing things as much as they hate having things done to them. The second part of it is it doesn't fucking matter what you think. Strategy is going to filter down into low level regardless. Because strategy always filters down, and people are solving games faster than they ever have before. I mean, Overwatch is getting solved faster than it was 2 years ago. This game's getting solved real damn fast. And the other thing is, if you have these problems in the game that are local minimums of effort or coordination for the amount of value you get, these still work in low rank, right? And the trouble is that the things that are actually good are the local minimums of coordination. It's triple stacking support that seems to be good in this game. It's not timing yourself perfectly with the rest of the team because they don't really have that much timing in the game in general for the most part. There's no like big, like ultimate combinations. That kind of stuff gets automated in people's brains over time. People's knowledge going up on the game does make certain things more degenerate as time goes on. Like, for instance, peeling. right? If people's knowledge in the game goes up on what they have to pay attention to, peeling gets more powerful by default, and so sustain gets more powerful by default. That's just how it works as knowledge increases. Not necessarily skill. Skill is completely separate from knowledge, right? Strange portals, right? Strange portaling out of spawn behind the enemy team. If you are in a random comp and one of you swaps, apart from the support, maybe one of the DPS or tanks, swap to Strange for the first fight, Strange portals behind the enemy team, you probably increase your win rate for that point by 20%. Genuinely, it's incredibly strong. It's so strong, it's ridiculous. So what do we do about that, right? Do we make it so you can't Strange portal out of spawn? The answer is yes. We make it so there's a 30-second to 60-second cooldown on it when Strange first launches, right? Strange portaling back from spawn. All of these things I'd like to contest. All of these things aren't skill things. All of these things are knowledge things, and these things are going to become more problematic as time goes on. There's local minimums and strategy that are so easy to do that they will become popularized. It's just how it works. It's just how it works. Iron Fist players need to be put in camps, true and based. Power balance adjusts with players' rank, so tuned heroes have slightly lower ranked players. Tuned heroes have slightly lower ranked players, true. But the problem is fun balance. If you're trying to nerf something that is not fun, you need to compensate with something that is fun. Otherwise, you're just stripping the game from the fun factor in the name of balance. Jeffort is the best example where you nerfed it, but you didn't buff another wacky thing he can do. Yeah, I think the question is, how fast can we churn? Right, because putting new wacky things in kind of refreshes the fun that people are having on the character, right? If you Jeff ult someone for the 200th time, you just won't enjoy it as much as the first time. It's just how brains work. So you need to move around the fun part of the kit, and at the same time, you do need to tone down the amount of hate people have by having it done to them. So you can delay it by moving it around, but eventually you're gonna have to more or less come out to a good gameplay loop in general, instead of crutching on people's first impression and being able to do a lot of stuff to other people.
That's such a complicated question, but also like a great question at the same time, because I mean, from the beginning, I am a bringer of chaos. I want to see this game do absolutely everything the opposite of the timeline we saw with Overwatch, for example, with roll queue, for example, with balancing, for example, all these things, right? And for so far, I think it's going to work, because we will
pulse the wall more often than I've landed a pulse bomb.
Optimize the fun out of it so fast, and we would have with Hella Hawkeye instantly. And I think the game wouldn't have been enjoyable, and I probably wouldn't have even wanted to even play ranked very long after the first week or two.
Yeah, I mean, they're crutching on hero bans, right?
But, you know, with hero bans being in the game, you can cater the experience to what you want every game by banning those heroes out. Now, every once in a while, you'll ban out other characters that, you know, are like the second level, maybe annoying.
I agree with you, SMMO, like new characters and new broken team ups. It's clear that they're trying to churn fast enough to outrun the boredom, right? And they're trying to keep things strong and churn fast enough that they can keep ahead of it over and over with team ups and stuff like that. But from my perspective, I played like 60 hours and I'm fucking bored of all the team ups. Like, they've got to be able to do this a little bit faster, because I'm not on the top percentile of the time played people, right? Not really. So they're already behind what I think they need to be in order for people to enjoy it. The team up's already more annoying for me than they are fun. Yeah, I've got the team up is awful thing here. Yeah, I think the honeymoon phase is already starting to go over. And also, it's not just the individual stuff that gets frustrating. It's the concept of having stuff done to you that you can't stop that gets frustrating as well. So sure, like being Jeff ulted off the map, that's awful. But being Jeff ulted off the map and being insta-killed by, let's say, Moon Knight's ult in the same game, they're individually bad, but together they also have the general feeling of, come on. Right? And when you have too much of that in your game for an extended period of time, it's not just the individual things, like moving stuff, like power around in the kit to make other things that are fun that can save it. People are still pissed off about that general feeling of not being able to do anything and the gameplay loop being disrupted by these things. And I think that's going to go down regardless. Like, the enjoyment and the lack of fun is going to go down regardless of what they do.
You know, you think of like your Iron Man Hulk main link, and it's like, well, now you're going to have to play against Hella Hawkeye. And it's like, ooh, I'm glad I don't have to play against that often. But like, you know, in small dosages, it's not too bad. But the thing that I love most is an example, like I use this as like an example when I was talking about, is like, life is kind of like playing like Detroit Become Human, but you only get to play it once, and so you don't get to see all the other options. This is like the time we get to see what would happen if like we just went with all the opposite choices, and so I want to see what happens. And so with things like,
man, you were glazing all of the choices, right? Apart from hero bans, right, guys? Apart from hero bans, as you say, streamer mode, fair enough, I'll give it to him. Flats was fine, like. And nobody kicked back enough. Everyone was like, oh, it's fine. 5v5 is fine. Rollock is fine. All of these things are fine. But they never... And the trouble is, we're comparing a game that had nobody developing it for 3 years since 2018. I'd say 2018 is when Blizzard stopped support for Overwatch. Realistically, they stopped support in 2016, but you know how it is. Everything that they did make for Overwatch was a part of Overwatch 2, regardless of they were making anyway, and they just happened to release it because Bobby wanted to keep his sports team.
Lock, right? We saw big queue time problems with Overwatch, and like that, like real talk, people do not want to sit in queue for 10 minutes. Like I literally don't give a fuck how many times your favorite streamer tells you that they want extremely balanced matchmaking. They want to have everybody on their team.
So balancing the average experience in the lobbies, and at the same time, it's a way of balancing to remove degenerate bullshit from the game if you can't do that. I think that Overwatch was way closer to removing the degenerate bullshit in the game than Rivals is, purely because I think that sustain is the cause of all the problems with triple tank and other things like that in these type of games. And Rivals, by default, has really high sustain. I'll be honest, if Rivals release with... and that's the other thing, like, Rivals' gameplay loop is just screwed, right? There's no burst cooldown, so there's no predictability on the healing coming into you. If a healer drops, the other healer can't make up for the missing healing by putting an extra pump into you. There's no Moira is healing you and Mercy's healing you. Mercy drops a healing, Moira uses an extra orb, right? There's no evening out balance. So the frontline trade is really awful. And so if you stack healing on healing on healing, you get to a point where the tanks are essentially immortal and get to that infinite phase where there's more healing than the damage coming in. They just walk over the enemy team, and that's one of those things that you really want to avoid in the game. And the way that you do that is by splitting up the healing sustain. You make that lower and you do the last little bit as a burst thing, right? So it's this sustain that isn't quite enough to beat the DPS, plus timed immunities or timed healing boosts. That's kind of like how you do it. You split these timed healing boosts up into like 3 or 4 different characters, and you lower the amount of stuff they do per one. So on average, you're going to be getting these time boosts into you more consistently. And then you create those big moments, right, where all of these time boosts hit you at the same time, and you're playing a cleave character, and you can just do whatever you want, right? And that's really fun. And you end up with these impulse into you where you can do whatever you want for a little while, and that's really fun. But because they have to sustain, and that makes you go infinite, they can't make the cleave characters to be able to actually cut through the enemy team, because they'll be able to just walk straight into the enemy team, right? And this all starts with the sustain, and all starts with the lack of bursty stuff additionally to the character's kit to be able to put in the tanks. And there's no real getting around this, because you can't redesign these heroes with burst, right? Like, we have... 8 supports out now? You can't put burst into their kit. Whether you put burst into Rocket's kit and cut down the sustain, you'd have to put a new ability on it, right? What about Mantis? How do you put burst into their kit? Well, I guess they are pretty bursty, but they're more sustainy for the general team. Luna, how do you put burst into their kit? You can't really, for the most part. I mean, they have the alternate mode to go into, but it's more of a AoE healing than a burst healing for an individual target. How do you put burst into Jeff's kit? Well, the sustain's so ridiculously high, I guess you could put more into the bubbles, less into the sustain. But then again, if you're making burst into the game, the burst is problematic with the melee heroes, because the burst and the speed boost and all those kind of things that the tanks really want are actually more effective onto the melee heroes to let them hit break points and make them be immortal into the enemy team's backline and give them like dodge chance effectively by having speed. And then what are the characters? Loki. How can you burst into Loki's kit that affects the tank? You just can't. It's made purposely to be defensive. And I think one of the problems is that the developers of Rivals thought that the aggressive burst cooldowns were the problem making goats. But really, all of the defensive burst cooldowns were the problem making goats, and the aggressive burst cooldowns were the only thing making goats fun. So what they've ended up doing is they have all the problems with sustain, they have all the problems with defensive burst, but instead of having this aggressive thing where you shove a Reinhardt into the enemy team's face by channeling all your shit into them at the same time, what they have is they have a static version of that where you fucking AFK, right? Or the guy in front just gets to walk over the enemy team. Rivals Dev didn't read the 70-page essay on goats. Well, I'm sure I have it on good authority that the Rivals devs were Overwatch players, kappa, 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 and they know all the problems, etc., etc. And, like, I'd say it took about a week of passing out that, like, big argument that I put in there. And I haven't even, like, included all of the points on that, the stuff about dueling out angles and staling out angles. And it's difficult because all of this is the kind of stuff that people should know, and Overwatch education is not at the level where they can know it, right? Like, these are all, like, basic, and this is objective because they're basic logical arguments from gameplay loops. They're not referencing anything or waiting on predictions and stuff like that. We've already had the predictions. We've already had the information coming in. I feel like it's been tested a couple of times. If you have high sustain and no burst, The tanks get to run over the enemy team, so you can't make cleave tanks. If you don't have cleave tanks, you end up with a very stale frontline format. And if you do try and fix this, you end up with problems with the melee DPS. I just don't think it's fixable. And that's my worry, right? The gameplay loop's screwed.
Same rank, and everyone on the enemy team the same rank, and they'll sit in queue for 15 minutes and wait. Nobody wants to do that shit. Like, the reason you do that is because, like, you play the game all day long. Most players do not want to sit there for more than like 2 minutes max. And even in high ranks, like now, like maybe not like top 10 or top 50 or anything, because I've been up there, but like at least in Eternal or like bottom of like top 500, it's like almost instant queue, maybe sometimes a minute. And
yeah, I mean, they don't have to
it's
do
great.
anything.
I would much rather that experience. And even just being able to like flex and do whatever, like at any moment, is kind of nice. Like, you know, you don't really need the 222, but there is a lot of 222 pilled people. Like they will scream if they don't get the 222. And so I'm sorry, it's a long-winded answer, I guess, to this question, but I think hero bans is genuinely the thing that keeps it all together. And the balance being everybody is powerful and OP in their own way works because it's great for casual players, especially. It's great for everybody because they have fun, but the thing that holds it together for the really sweaty gamers who want to play ranked all day, which are going to be most of your streamers, most of your content creators, most of your competitive gamers, is hero bans. That holds it together, because in Overwatch, we would solve the meta within a week or two.
I mean, you can hero ban or you can balance the game. You can't really compare Overwatch because Overwatch didn't have developers. They actually just didn't really have developers for the last like 4 or 5 years of its lifespan. Since 2016, there are people that were reluctantly developing the game because they kind of had to, because the CEO wanted their sports team. So did we need hero bans? Would hero bans have fixed everything? Yes, hero bans would have fixed everything in Overwatch 1. But then again, developing the game would have fixed everything. Arcade. It probably needs to rejig. Give it a minute. It takes a minute to load the queue time.
I'm confident we would have figured it out within a week or two. But hero bans change the entire game, and I'll take it.
DM me.
Also change it as well.
Team ups change it in the worst way. Screw you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for having a long-winded answer because they're complicated questions, you said, so I appreciate that. There's a lot of really good points there. Let's take it to SK next. SK, is it like flats is just a team ups as part of it, hero bans part of it? Where do you want to go? What do you want to feedback on?
Okay.
The original question was about role lock, right?
It normally takes a while to load up.
Yeah, it was
a couple minutes.
I don't think they should add role lock. Not at all. For one, the queue times will be impossible to solve. And
the queue times are going to be impossible to solve because they haven't had enough tanks and supports, and the tanks and supports are boring because 2/3 of the things that you can create in the tank and support category aren't actually represented. They have throughput healers. They have Mantis, that's a throughput healer that can also do incredibly reliable instant cast healing onto angles and has residual healing. Like everyone has so much healing that it doesn't really matter. It just matters whether you have attention on somebody at a particular time, and that's even more. That's even more vulnerable to sustain stacking, because the only reason people are dying on your team is because you don't have attention on them. So if you stack extra supports, there's more attention to go around.
You can really just run anything and win. I think maybe the only requirement you could argue is that you have to have 2 strategists. But even
no, you do have to have 2 strategists. You can't win with 1 strategist. Well, you can, but I think it's like a 40% win rate. Does anyone disagree with that 2 strategists aren't necessary in the game? I think 2 strategists are like straight up necessary, yeah? 2812? 166? Yeah, it looks like it's evened out. Yeah, definitely screwed up now that it's gone into to arcade. Interesting. It was over the last 3 days where it didn't work. Roll-lock doesn't work since Mr. Fantastic proves the point that devs not wanting roles to matter. Yes, so you can't do roll-lock in this game regardless. I agree entirely with that. The question is whether they can fix the absolute degenerate bullshit that's going to come down on high from the good players down to low players by being fed down like a baby bird with their mouth open. Just like you will have triple support and then nobody can play DPS and other stuff like that. Why is Mr. Fantastic in DPS purposely misrolled? Purposely cross-rolled, clearly. But whether they're cross-rolled, whether they're cross-rolled and they should be in the tank category and be slightly more DPS-y, or whether they're in the DPS category and should be more tanky, I think clearly they're purposely put into the wrong one, but they are close enough to the middle to be reasonable. If you don't follow Overwatch 2 news, you don't know 6v6 moved to arcade? Well, yeah, but that shouldn't change the representation of the tanks versus DPS versus supports in the role, because I don't see a reason for there to be a bias towards tanks not knowing. They don't care, they said in an interview, they don't care as much about competitiveness of the game. They just want the game to be fun. Yeah, but the game won't be fun because you can't do this. It's like, yeah, the restaurant analogy I used the other day. You go to a restaurant, the waitress comes over to you, she gives you the menu, and the guy behind you yells at the waitress, "He'll have eggs! He's gonna have the eggs. And you're like, no, actually, could I have the toast? And he's like, you're a fucking idiot. Eggs are better. My mate in a different restaurant had the eggs, and the eggs were really good. And he just starts threatening you and flips your table, right? That's pretty much it. That's competitive games in a nutshell, and that's the internet in a nutshell, and there's no way to fight that, right? Because if the eggs are actually better in some restaurants, then somebody's going to be yelling at you to pick the eggs. That's your problem. You try and force game to be hyper competitive. That's not competitive. That's at the low rank. That's what the players do. There's no way of stopping it. The players that are good at the game are always going to create metas or find out metas, and it's always going to filter down, right? Like, it's always going to filter down. There's nothing else you can do about it. It is the inevitable thing that happens on the internet. If there is a local minimum of effort versus value, people will find it, especially if it's coordination versus value, and that'll feed down to the low rank. And the trouble is, triple support is the local minimum of effort versus value, if anything has been, right? It is. Because it evens out all of the problems with the comps versus people not dying and other stuff like that. As long as you triple stack the supports that are reasonably good in terms of damage, you got enough damage to just shell through anything anyway. And Farah was really good and people didn't know how to deal with her. I saw in nearly all my games back then. Yep. Your analogy should be pancakes versus French toast. Should it be pancakes? Okay. I'll make sure it's pancakes. Shall I put that analogy into the video, by the way? Do you think it's good enough to
DPS, 2 strategists, or like 4 tanks, 2 strategists, I can win. I've gone against a team that was running 3 vanguards, and 3 strategists, and they were completely unkillable. It was really cool. Or you get into a game where
it's really cool. You say that again?
I can win. I've gone against a team that was running 3 they're called vanguards. 3 vanguards and 3 strategists, and they were completely unkillable. It was really cool. Or you get into a game where everyone plays strategists, and then you just run 3 of them. Like, why not? It's really good. It's cool. It's awesome.
You're like, yeah, we reinvented goats. It's so much fun. Come on, dude. Like, come on. Like, is anyone gonna call this out? Somebody please call this out. You just said goats was fun, and fine that it's in the game already.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that helps the popularity of the game, is that by allowing all these options, unlike, let's say, going for like a role queue, people's experience is just fundamentally more fun somehow?
Yeah, it adds so much variety, and it also solves the queue time issue. Like, it really would be infinite queue times. I think Overwatch learned that, and that's what got us into keep on talking about Overwatch. That's what got us into the whole 5v5 or 6v6 thing, because role queue was implemented, and it introduced the impossible queue time problem.
I mean, I don't blame you for talking about Overwatch.
Notice none of them are looking at the camera. They're streamers. I'm literally looking at you over here permanently. Yeah, they probably just look at the chat.
Better part of a decade trapped in that jail cell, so you're understandable to have the PTSD from it. Necros, let me take it to you, and then
what the hell, man? Like, yeah. Said the free Vanguard and free strategist was sad and unkillable. Free strat was very fun. Man, it's so weird, isn't it? The way they talk about this, where they've acknowledged there's problems, but they don't acknowledge that the problems are going to filter down real fast to the low ranks and create problems in the low ranks, right? And they don't acknowledge that and then they're like, oh, it's fun anyway. I love playing it right now before it becomes meta, and you have to queue it because it's better than the other things. Oh, the other thing, I was talking about Wolverine, right? Man, Wolverine's busted, right? Imagine, right? Okay, so here's the problem, right? If you think Wolverine's going to deal with triple tank, right? If you theoretically, or support stacking, right? Triple support, 2 tank, or triple tank. If you think Wolverine can cut through that, it's not going to be able to. Do you know why? Because support stacking comes with instant denial stacking for certain things. It comes with things like Magneto Strange being able to stop the Wolverine being able to kidnap you, all of that type of thing. When the support stacks up to a certain point, you cannot pierce it with this type of stuff. That's kind of, oh, Peggy. Yeah, you can come up here. You can come up here. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, a guest. But do you know what Wolverine does do if you buff him? It doesn't cure your triple tank problems. Do you know what it does? It fucking murders single tanks, right? It doesn't do anything to your triple tanks. It basically is a dead character for your triple tank game. Oh, okay, goes. But it ruins the experience if you have a solo or a duo tank. So it's this kind of thing where you're incentivizing people to either run no tanks into Wolverine or 3 tanks into Wolverine, and it makes the problem worse, right? Exactly the same as when we started buffing Reaper and Hanzo and other characters like that into goats. It does not work. You have to reduce the sustain, and if you reduce the sustain in Rivals, you have the problem that all the tanks are so used to the sustain that nobody want to play it without the sustain. And the game fundamentally changes if you reduce these numbers. The gameplay flow will not be even slightly the same if it goes down by 30%. Like, it's so weird. I don't get how people get here. It just sucks. Magneto, Bubble, and Sue deals with Wolverine well enough to know due to how the abilities interact. Yeah, I agree entirely. Yeah. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Vulgar.
What about a roll-up?
So the wider question is it better for the game to be balanced? You kind of brought this up as well, where it's like, is it better for the game to be a bit wacky, a bit unstructured?
Peggy got too many pets. My rivals. She wanted to just sit on my lap, and I picked her up, and she was like, too much, and just ran away.
Was it better, or is that line that Overwatch went down of like, okay, 2-2-2, we're gonna try and balance things really like well? What's working?
I think it's better for the game for it to be more wacky because it's like more chaotic.
Please define what you mean by wacky and chaotic. That's the question, right, guys? Please define what you mean when you use these terms that don't mean anything. When you say wacky, do you mean all the ults being really good? Okay. Well, what about Lunar Snow and other ults like that? Okay, well, we want to drop the support ultimates. Well, what about the insta-kill ultimates? Do you want Moon Knight's ult to be an insta-kill? Is that good for the game? Is that wacky? Do you think Moon Knight having a 40% better ult due to a patch is good? Do you think all ults should be really good? Like, do you think Jeff should be able to throw people off the map that have no movement with basically no interaction? Is that good for the game? Is that the wacky side of it? Is the wacky side of it just having melee DPS? Is that what we're saying? Is the support stacking and the support sustain being so high what's wacky about this game? Please use your words. Don't use analogies or like squirrely words so you don't have to actually be specific. Like, come on.
And more fun if everything is like, just imbalanced. But as you said,
imbalance, yeah. So what part of the imbalance are you talking about? Tell me a part of the imbalance that is more fun. Right now, in chat, tell me a part of the imbalance in this game that is fun.
So in low elos, I feel like...
Yeah, it just means new, right? 100%, it just means new.
This happens less where people are just in low elos, people are just playing like whatever they want, right? In high elos is where it really matters when stuff is like super overtuned, and that's why the hero bans help a lot. And to answer the roll lock question, I feel like that also depends on who you ask. I feel like so in high elo it matters less because I feel like most of my games are always...
Yeah, but in low elo people pick Hela and Hawkeye and ruin the game right now. Is that not true, guys? Like, it's filtered down and people know to pick it, so they're ruining the video game. The video game isn't fun in low ranks already because Hela and Hawkeye are already so good. Is that that's true, right? I'm not going crazy.
I don't know. There's people flexing in high elo. I feel like most of the complaints for the low elo for roll lock are from low elo.
When they say wacky, they're really meaning unfair, living off the power fantasy of completely fucking over somebody else due to no fault of their own. Yeah, and they have no introspect. And these streamers are also the people that have climbed up the ranks real fast with a positive win rate. So they, by definition, are doing wacky, unfun stuff to other people more currently than it's being done to them, right? Like,
players where they have like 6 DPS or something like that. It just doesn't happen in higher elos, and I really would like to see this game not have any roll lock because I feel like it limits creativity. There's obviously so many problems.
No, Squid, I agree entirely. If you're trying too hard to balance every single thing, you squish out all of the interesting stuff in the game. No, I agree entirely, but I do disagree entirely with the idea that it's just okay not to have balance, which is essentially what most people have been saying since the game launched, right?
Times and creativity stuff.
Do you think it's an inevitable path to some extent? Like, do games have to do if they're going to be quote unquote?
And there's another thing there, Random, with the streamers hitting their ceiling on their rank, because there's this consolidation thing where you actually do need to lose a couple of games after you get a new rank. You actually do need to go negative in order to stop climbing. And do you think people are going to enjoy stopping climbing and having a negative win rate? I think. How much extra SR is it? It's like 300 to 50. So it's like a 1/6 extra negative. So it's like 45% win rate will keep your rank the same. And these people will be hard stuck with 45% win rate, right? And that's going to suck, man. Because they won't feel like they're climbing and they're going to have a low win rate. So they're not going to enjoy the game.
Competitive? Because, presumably...
No, I don't think so. I think it's also really... okay, it doesn't have to be only competitive. A game can be both fun and competitive. Overwatch went too far into the competitive route, and they forgot about what makes the game fun. I feel like throughout the years, they've just sort of removed all of this wacky interactions in efforts.
Oh, please tell me the wacky interactions they removed Necros. I am all ears, right? I am fucking all ears right now. Yeah, people assume somehow that the things above the hero ban limit are not going to filter down below the hero ban limit, and then you'll say this to someone and they'll be like, oh, okay, well, reduce the hero ban limit. And my reaction will be, well, just fix the fucking heroes. Like, come on, guys. Just fix the heroes. What are we talking about? If it's not fun above the hero ban limit to have things broken, and it's not fun below the hero ban limit to have things broken, then what are we fucking talking about? Just, like, it's not fun. So it's not wacky, it's not interesting, it's just not actually fun to have things unbalanced, right? And, like, you never get there with this conversation, because there's always a goal place to move.
Just making the game more quote-unquote competitive, right? And I didn't really like that throughout the years. Rivals has so many more nice interactions, I suppose.
Tracer not killing tanks with pulse bomb is unfun. Yes, and I do think there's some skillful interactions that you can do, and that is how you gate the bullshit in the game, right? You make it so that the bullshit cannot affect the low ranks in any way, shape, or form for the most part. Old May was so fun and wacky, right? Was Old May fun and wacky? I guess, but they haven't really changed that much. The freeze was fun and wacky, I agree with that. But I feel like the freeze were more degenerate in low ranks necessarily than it was in high ranks quite a lot of the time. The question is whether these people are trying to defend low rank people or high rank people. We'll talk about like Symmetra and Torbjorn maybe. Maybe we'll talk about like dash cancel on ledges for Genji. Maybe we'll talk about Mercy movement for the first time ever. When nobody ever mentioned Mercy movement being completely gutted in terms of skill. I do agree Blizzard have removed fun things from the game for no reason in particular for the idea of balance. I just think they don't know what the idea of balance is and they actually got it wrong, what was actually unreasonable and causing problems and what wasn't. Quite a lot of the fun and wacky stuff got removed because it was degenerate in the low ranks, not the high ranks, right?
Between the hero.
I'm gonna let Flats interject before I go to Boger. Go ahead, Flats.
I'm sorry, Boger. I didn't mean to jump over. I want to hear your thoughts on this, Necros. So I watched a video of. Do you know who his Watson is?
Maybe.
He was like a pro player. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pro player. He did like he was like rank 1.
Stuff in basketball with sim turrets. Yeah, and I do also agree the sim turret basketball thing is really fun, but it's kind of a one-trick pony and it kind of gets boring after like a month, right? It's like I'm sure. Do you think guys are gonna reference Rocket being able to put down health packs and then being able to keep them for the entire game, even if you swap off the hero? Is that fun and wacky, or is that just kind of an interaction that we should probably remove from the game? Like, that's the question, right? Is it fun and wacky that we have all this jank in the game that just doesn't, like, it means that because by the time this becomes meta, it doesn't require anything, right? It just requires somebody to swap to it. So it's a knowledge check. So when the knowledge check hits the low ranks, every single low rank player is going to be swapping to Rocket in spawn, loading up the team with health packs and swapping off because there's no downside. It's just universally good. So like, Roadhog cooking you through rules is so fun and wacky. So fun, Tiefling. So fun.
There was like a bunch of challenges him did with Hal. Yeah, in Apex at the time. Basically, he came in with a video recently that talked about how Apex went from being a super competitive game to like, or it was like a casual competitive game. Then they leaned into the casual. Then they leaned into the competitive. Then they went back to the casual. And I wonder, you know, it made me think about Overwatch a little bit. And it's like, I agree with you, but also I think it's just too confusing to the average, like to the player base, where you don't know what you're getting.
Devs use the word sharp when I've asked questions about some of this stuff. What are they trying to mean by sharp? Because I use the word sharp in a different context, probably. My version of sharp is likely to be able to kill somebody in a manner that doesn't allow them to react to it. Be interesting, Amma, to hear what sharp means.
Getting into. And Overwatch has changed up 3 or 4 times. And I remember me and you, SVP, sitting on this podcast in 2022, talking about the best way to play Overwatch these days.
Oh, Bastion? Yeah, but that's just the devs having to move something because they made a new game, right? The new Bastion was clearly something that they were working on for the PvE mode that were just like, oh, f it, shove it in. Surely, guys.
It's a casual experience. Don't take it too serious. Just go in, play what you want, play a few hours every week. Don't go super hard. Have a good time. Overwatch changed that. And they leaned really hard into the competitive side again. And then when they started leaning into the competitive side, they pissed a lot of people off with that. But also, they didn't even make the competitive players happy. Like, they weren't even doing the things that made those players happy anyways. So you pissed off both groups of people.
Yeah, I agree. Overwatch have been completely mishandled. Flats is right. Sharp means the range of options between the correct and incorrect players very narrow. I think they mean more like the rough edges of the game. To them, the rough edges are important. You can't remove them all or your game becomes boring. But that's the question, right? Is Rocket being able to supply his entire team of health packs and jump packs in spawn and then swap off the hero interesting, or is it something that's going to become boring the moment that people realize you have to, like, you may as well do it? Right? Is it going to become boring by default? And that's the question. Is this just a knowledge check that we're putting on low rank players that's going to slowly filter down? And you just need to keep introducing more and more knowledge checks that slowly filter down in order to make the game interesting? Or are these knowledge checks just bad in general, right? Are these knowledge checks just bad? Is Strange being able to portal back to a fight from spawn if you're the first person that died and contest the point at the end interesting and a nice, rough, sharp edge? Or is it just something that every single fucking person is going to be able to do at the skill floor the moment that people realize it's very good to do? Right? That's my question, right? Swapping off because you keep 50% ult charge onto Doctor Strange is good, right? We're not questioning that. There's no reason not to do it because the time is still ticking down when you're not on the hero. So, question, should we make it so that swapping to Strange has a cooldown on the TP? The answer is yes. Is that cutting off a jagged edge and a sharp? Yes, it is cutting off a sharp edge. Is it degenerate bullshit that's going to make the game worse when the moment people realize that it's just a knowledge check? Also, yes. Strange portaling the entire team to trap them in spawn. Yeah, well, the spawn traps and stuff like that, I assume they're going to fix at some point. I'm more worried about portaling from spawn on a payload map or capture point map and portaling, swapping to portal. Those two things, they probably need to be removed. But is that removing jaggies? Yeah, it is removing jaggies. Some TP out of spawn has a trade-off. Your flex DPS will be left behind it. Your tracer might be there for a fight, but then she won't have blinks. No, I agree with you with that. The Doctor Strange TP also has a trade-off in a way. It's not very big, but it does have a trade-off. The trade-off is all of your team's going to be in the same place once they come out of the TP. And that is a trade-off because generally how you tackle chokes is you spread out around them, right? So really you need to go through the teleport, spread out around that area, and the defensive team should have an advantage there. But that's not the type of advantage people actually take advantage of in practice in low ranks, right? And that's another thing, right? It hates on the low ranks more than it hates on the high ranks. These type of knowledge check, minimum level problems always affect the low rank for the most part. Torbjorn's turret, start of Overwatch, right? Torbjorn's turret. I mean, all you need to know is how to more or less position it and how it works, and you've hit the skill floor for the character. And the skill floor and the value floor is pretty damn high. That's a knowledge check. And all we're doing is we're just learning all the knowledge checks right now, and the moment we learn them, is removing Torbjorn's turret being really powerful in the low ranks, a shave off of the edges. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it's a shave off the edges. I don't disagree with that at all. But is it necessary for the low rank experience to be fun once people filter down that knowledge? Yeah. So, like, it's a hard one because there's no clear answer.
Both of them think the other one is actually the one that's getting preferential treatment, and both of them don't get shit.
Necros, I'll give you a chance to respond. Poker's patiently waiting.
Yeah, I feel like that's true. Wait, what exactly was your question?
Well, I guess Flats, go ahead, Flats. You want to summarize your thought there?
I guess the question is like, I think that players want to know what their experience is when they're getting into a game. Are they getting into a game for a fun, just have a good time experience, or are they going into like, sweat, this is going to be a super competitive game, I want to rank up, like I want to take this seriously versus just
I always think most of the changes in Overwatch were for the casual player, and somehow people got this narrative in mind that they were changing things for the competitive player. Alan said, my question to the devs, if I remember right, was basically, why not just remove all the bullshit from the game like Hog Hook or Sombra Hack? The answer was, you can't remove all the sharpness or the game becomes boring. Yes, 100% agree. But that's an interesting one, because that version of sharpness is more stuff that is very much hated on certain things, which isn't necessarily bad. There's ways to tone down the sharpness in a way that makes it less unfun to die to and more fun to use quite a lot of the time. So let dash into Skybox GG. They hate casual players.
Good time,
and the mistake that potentially Overwatch and Apex made is that they bounce between the two too often. Like they didn't stick to one.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a mistake to like swap between them. I mean, I don't know. I think there's like a nice sweet spot where they can make both people happy, and it's definitely like a challenge to find out this sweet spot. But I do think that it exists, and I think Rivals. Don't you guys agree that Rivals has done like a pretty good job where I feel like the game is really fun casually, but it's also super fun competitively. I think the way they do it is good.
I think people are just learning the game. I don't think it's actually fun casually.
It's really early in the game.
That's true.
Like, can I mock Bogre too?
I don't think that the Marvel Rivals passes the 40-hour mark. I don't think it does.
Go for it.
What did I do?
Okay, I want to say, I feel like Overwatch has constantly put out patches that kind of dumb things down or reduce the skill of certain heroes.
Oh, I'd love to hear this from SK.
Or remove interactions or cool techs.
Okay. Apart from 5... Okay, I'll give them 5v5. You are the people that like 5v5, by the way, not me. I'm just going to say that. So 5v5 removed a bunch of cool interactions because one less player on the field is a bunch less interactions, 100%. But aside from that, yeah, Mercy Tech going to be mentioned. Do you think they mentioned Ledge Dash?
Make it
and
simpler.
Watch this.
And I've seen the complete opposite with Rivals, and that makes me happy.
Do you want for someone like myself who maybe isn't familiar with what you're saying? Like, I can imagine the Overwatch.
Yeah, can you start talking vague generalities and have some specifics?
But do you want to give me like examples of what Rivals have done? Because like with Overwatch, we could say like the Genji ledge dash, for example, of a tech.
Good boy.
In a way, or patches that. So what?
6v6 is Andrew Tate. Yeah, there you go. The next UK Prime Minister. Yeah, did everyone see that Andrew Tate is running for Prime Minister on an independent party? Everyone say that?
What are you kind of referring to with Rivals?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
I think it's just how the heroes interact with each other. I just think it's really fun. There's like a lot of...
Come on! Like... Barnum's statement about the game being good. Could you give me a specific? Boga steps in. Oh, it's just fun.
Think about like all this sort of stuff you can do with Strange Portal. I think that's like the stuff. Like
Strange Portal.
It's really fun for casual players, but it's also really interesting competitively.
Strange Portal is a knowledge check that will not pass the 40-hour mark. Come on, guys. You've like Overwatch has had years of social media development, all the fun things of the game being filtered out. You say Strange Portal, I say Shatter. Like they're both fun.
It's that sort of stuff they're referring to.
Right, because it has like a global cooldown, right? Like it's such a long, it's like minutes for this cooldown. You might not use it more than once a round, but it's like kind of wacky and it works. And also you can transfer between rounds, so you can start the next round of like a control point immediately, ulting someone. So it's uncompetitive in its nature, but it sort of gives it some sort of flavor.
It gives it flavor because the game falls apart if you don't have ultimates in the game.
I have a really good example. It's that stupid thing that Boger always does with Strange Portal, where he he flies really high and then he drops the portal on the ground, and then he uses the momentum off of that, like of him dropping into it, to ult and essentially bunny hop into the backlines. It's like the silliest thing ever, but it actually has competitive application. That sort of stuff is.
The silly stuff is that Strange can use his 2 ultimates together to instantly kill the entire enemy team if they're grouped up. That's the fun part, right? This is fun and wacky. By the way, this is very easy to execute at a low level. Once middle rank players find this out, it's going to be incredibly easy to execute. They're talking about the portal bunny hop into the enemy team with Aya Agamotto with Strange. It's not a good thing to have in your game.
Sport, though.
Doesn't even require any coordination.
I guess that would be my example.
It's off the tip of my tongue. I remember now. There's so many Star-Lord ult in order to you can animation, like you can shoot and cancel the animation if you left like an ult at the same time, or like the Spider-Man B-hop tech.
You can cancel that's just broken.
Or like the Spider-Man grapple cancel to do more.
B-hop tech and grapple cancel. Like I don't mind things being broken and not removed from the game. It's just jank, right? It's not. Spider-Man B-hop tech. Okay, that was clearly intentional. It was clearly intentional, right, guys?
Damage or whatever. Or I had one more.
Wolverine rocket kidnap.
Yeah, Wolverine.
Right? That sort of stuff. It's so fun, right?
Wolverine rocket kidnap? You're saying Wolverine is a good example of fun jank in your game?
Where I love that sort of swap off your teammates.
The Star-Lord thing was patched out? No, Espimo, they patched it out? Oh my god, that's really upsetting. Because that was the fun jank in the game that makes the game good. That was all the rough edges. Dude, they've ruined the game.
Keep the armor packs and the jump boost. I feel like Overwatch would have patched all this stuff out within the day. Or like within the week.
Right. No. They patched out everything fun.
But is some of that
all of their examples of the stuff that it's fun that they patched out? The Wolverine with rocket jump pack thing can basically fly. Yeah, the Wolverine rocket jump pack thing's available at the skill floor. All you need to do is pick up a pack and not use it, right?
Some of that our fault though, because we do the online community does whine about these things. Like when Sigma had his weird.
Overwatch had the same crap. Exactly.
Well, here's why Marvel Rival devs are based. People complained about Rollock. They didn't budge and they said, "Shut up, we're not adding Rollock."
Anyway. Yeah, because they fundamentally made the game in a way that they can't add Rollock due to team ups and due to the fact that they're making cross-roll heroes. It's a decision, sure. I guess they're based. But like the Sigma fluxing through walls, that was clearly unintentional. You can remove the jank from the game. Do you think people would have been enjoying Sigma fluxing through walls the 3rd day of Sigma being able to flux through walls, guys? Do you think they're going to be enjoying it a week after? Is that the kind of, is all this jank they're talking about being really good just the type of jank that's going to get boring real fucking fast? Right? Half Overwatch 2 heroes are hybrid? Yeah, to be fair, yeah, no, you're right. Oh my god. What I hear from SK is that Overwatch 2 is a bit lacking in characters with mechanics you can micromanage. Some people enjoy mastering details in a kit. She seems like one. Well, I think all the details in the kit have been taken out by the 5v5 mode. They've been fully championing something the Andrew Tate of Overwatch, right?
Anyways, look at this new heroes we're adding. You can't just budge every time people complain online because we are stupid and the people playing the game are sometimes stupid and they don't understand. I feel like Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, if people forgot about Ryan being able to hold spacebar when he holds up and shatter with a bunny hop that they were all enjoying, it all gets boring. right, guys? It all gets boring, doesn't it? Are we crazy? All of this stuff, all of this jank, it's fun for a little while, it's fun while you're learning it, but once you learn the game, it's not fun anymore. You can say it's fun when you're learning the game for new players, but when you're learning the game for new players, I think it's more unfun when people do this jank and bullshit to you than it is to actually use yourself. I don't know, like, after a while, I think it all becomes really boring regardless.
So unbalanced, so weird, and so fun to play because there's so many possibilities and you can break the game in so many fun ways without it being too game breaking. And it just makes the game fun. Every match feels different. Every match you can do something silly. Like take Strange Portal, for example. Overwatch would never...
Fuck off, take Strange Portal. Give me another example apart from Strange Portal, you bastard. If you have enough jank, there's always new jank to learn. Well, you're going to have, as I said, you're going to have to churn jank through your game in terms of the team-ups and stuff like that. And I already feel like they're behind on the content release schedule to be able to do that. I said they're going to have to be really damn fast. Like, the jank in the game, I don't find new jank in the game now. Like, I think the game's already staled out for the most part. Anyone that's played more than 60 hours is going to say the same, in my opinion. They're saying there's new stuff being found. There's no new stuff being found. Like, the Strange Portal flashbang, that's clearly just a glitch they're going to patch out, right? We're not getting crazy here. The Strange Portal, what was the other one? The uppercut with Spider-Man? Sure, I mean, but I guess that's just another version of the Strange Portal, isn't it? It's not like this new real, like, big jank. It's more like, this is just another type of the thing people are already doing by pulling people off the map.
Add something like this because you can break the game so hard and you can do so many silly things, and Overwatch doesn't like it when you can throw teammates. And this, like, Lifeweaver, I thought it was really funny back in the day pulling people off the map, but they're like, no, you can't have that anyways. The best way I can describe Overwatch is right now it's sanitized. It's very sanitized. It's like it runs really well. It plays.
Yeah, his character's moving faster with better graphics card, fun and wacky. No, you're right.
Sometimes fun, but the amount of things that can happen are so limited, and it's just after a few hours you're just bored, right? And every fun.
My dude, you have played Overwatch for many thousands of hours, Boga. Please, dude, like, come on.
Direction we had.
Yeah, right. You're playing it hard troll as well.
Hard every time he had a fun tech, instantly removed. Genji has fun techs, instantly removed. Echo had a fun tech where.
Wait, what was the first one?
After a few hours, you're just bored, right? And
okay,
every fun direction we had. Reinhardt, every time he had a fun tech, instantly removed.
What Reinhardt fun techs have been removed, guys?
Genji has fun
Genji
tech.
ledge dash is probably what he's referring to.
Instantly removed. Echo had a fun tech where she could bunny hop when she got released, instantly removed. And
yeah, I think it's bad that they removed that. Shattered Bunny... Wait, they removed Shattered Bunny Hop? Oh, that... I feel like that's not necessary. I agree with that, if he's using that as an example. He's unironically complaining about not being allowed to ledge dash to the skybox. Yeah, it's one of those things. I didn't really mind Genji ledge dash to the skybox personally, Tiefling. The reason why I didn't mind it was because it allows you to get back to the fight faster, which is in the theming of Genji. And it burns your dash cooldown, so you're not useful for another 12 seconds regardless at the time. So it was one of those things where it was like, wait, they removed it? That's really sad. Guarantee they won't bring up Mercy Tech because it hurts their argument. Yeah, so I agree with you on the Mercy Tech, that they implemented the Mercy Tech into the game. So they've been a bit inconsistent on this kind of stuff. But I would also say that in Overwatch 2 they ruined Mercy's kit by making it so that the tech isn't is available at the skill floor, not putting a skill curve onto it. Yeah, there's a lot of tech in the game. I don't like them removing this kind of stuff, and I wouldn't like it if Rivals remove stuff. But there's a big difference between tech and Strange Portal, right? There's a big difference between tech and Luna Snow's ultimate being really good. Like, there's loads of things like this that are just like, tech versus sharp edges. What's the difference?
Like, why would you do that? It's just boring. Then you're like, people can't show off the things they've learned. Like, the most you can learn in the game is like game sense, aim.
Yeah, there's no application. It was just something created, made a thing because Overwatch 1 had no content. That's true. But if there's no application, there's no reason not to leave it in the game, right?
Positioning and like basic concepts that you can get really good at. But like in Marvel Rivals, a Black Panther player that has put in 200 hours playing that character will decimate your backline without knowing anything else in the game. And I think that's fun. And I think it's...
No. It's literally just somebody, like, come on, right? Come on, Boga, right? The character can instantly kill people with a combo to 225 HP by going spear, dash, right? Like, is that, like, that's fun because the character's put 200 hours into it? I can learn this in 2 hours. Give me 2 hours on Black Panther, I can start assassinating backlines. It's bad, Jank, right? It's just that people haven't learned it yet, right? The moment that like 20% of people know how to play Black Panther, more or less, or know what Black Panther does, this becomes really boring really fast. Don't you, like, come on.
silly. And you get people in game, you get a Storm 1 trick in your game, and she does something crazy and wins you the game. You're like, what happened? Or like a strange portal just clutches up by doing something stupid.
No, I agree with you, Tiefling. Mercy's movement have been massively improved in Overwatch 1 by putting stuff into the game. I think that the removal of super jump and the removal of slingshot and the mechanics of how it worked, I think that was probably done because the engine change to Overwatch 2 was negative, but I definitely liked the individual changes that they've done to it as it went on. Yeah,
you know, you get a Rocket Raccoon jump back on the Wolverine. He just jumps off the map with a tank. That's silly. It's fun. The clip potential in Marvel Rivals is infinite. You see it all the time. The content is infinite.
My dude, it's been out for a fucking month. If your game doesn't have infinite content after it's been out for a month, then what are we doing right now? People are so like new to everything. Like as you say, you can get a new fun clip by strange portaling somebody off the map. Yay! I've seen 5,000 of them already. I'm bored already. Like, can we fix Strange being able to portal straight back to the point, and fix Strange being able to portal every single time out of spawn? And by the way, if you're gonna fix those two things, you may as well fucking call it an ultimate and make it charge when he does damage at the same time. I don't know. Like,
and that's what I always said for Overwatch. Like,
balanced by clip.
Beginning when I started playing the game, I used to take it very seriously and very
People
competitively.
just stopped clipping it.
When I was much younger and much stupider to understand the intricacies of what makes a game fun. From my perspective, when I played the game competitively, I wanted it to be more competitively balanced. But now I understand that aiming to make everything balanced is going to sanitize the game and make it way less fun to play and make content from. Just like on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, anywhere on YouTube, you just see so many funny, silly videos about the most stupid things. Jarvis, clip that. Strange portals, like 90% of the time, like just doing stupid things. Like I watched somebody place a strange portal above the spawn door when they're leaving, and Spider-Man uppercut them all off the map at the beginning of the game.
I saw that too.
That is insane. That is so funny. That is so funny. That is so funny. And Overwatch doesn't have that. Overwatch is like you go in, you know what to expect. Always the same things happen, and then you log off, and that's it. And that's what pains me, because Overwatch in the beginning was Marvel Rivals the way it is right now. It was silly and it was fun.
It's
and
just
the game
a new
was racing all the
game.
time, and people did funny tech.
What are you on about? Like, what are you on about, Bog? Like, it hasn't been that bad. Come on.
And Genji players were sitting there ruining people's lives, but it was fun.
Me. That was me. Sorry about it. Yeah, I think all of those things were removed throughout the years. You know,
yeah, they were removed for good reason. Like,
say like Overwatch used to be like that. That's why this game is so like awesome. It's because it just has
yeah, no, he wants to be able to grief. That's
things that Overwatch has that removed it throughout the years. All the silly interactions.
And do you guys think that the devs have kind of learned those
lessons?
lessons?
Your team and spawn as May is so wacky. I should be allowed to do it every match in comp. Yeah, what about warning the enemy team in to their spawn every single map on the what was the map? What was the rivals map? What's the rivals map where it's got the high ground on the left side of spawn and the spawn door, and you can wall both of them in and make it so that people can't leave spawn for 15 seconds, right? Yeah, it's fun. Oh, it's so wacky. You can just do that every round. Like, requires no execution whatsoever. Like, Wakanda? Was it the Wakanda map? Yeah. Oh, so fun. Oh, Asgard. No, yeah, it's the Asgard one with Loki. When Loki floats around during spawn. You can portal both of them. There's no way to get out if you have a no movement character. Yay! Yay! Shall we put an extra spawn door on there? Or shall we leave it like this because it's so fun and wacky to be able to lock people in spawn for 15 seconds at the start of a match? It's so fun! Like, come on, right? There's 3 spawn doors in Asgard, but by the time you run to the third one, you basically spent the 15 seconds already, right? I asked the devs about that. Why not disable Maywall and spawn? Their answer was it's not worth it, basically. Yeah, but we should work around it, right? It's not that... like, we should work around Maywall by making it a low enough timer that it's not too annoying, and we should walk around Strange Portal by putting another, like, spawn door there so you can get out in a different way, right?
Since like that, watching Overwatch, because is there a potential dark path that they walk down where, you know, let's say a year from now, they do make some of these decisions to sanitize the game or remove some of these things, or, you know, people might just figure shit out, right? Like maybe that despite Hero Band, despite all this, people just grind the game to a point of being boring, and then the devs are gonna have to make some decisions. Do you see like a dark timeline? I'll take it to Flats first. Flats,
I want to interject here
because it's completely and utterly fucking inevitable.
I've met the developers. Okay. I'm the only person here that has talked to them in real life, and we played against them. Yes, flexing. But the reason why I'm saying it is because I had normal, you know, like interactions with them. They're all ex-Overwatch players, or at least a lot of them played Overwatch. And a lot of them had the same, you know, complaints as us. And I talked to them, and they were like, I feel like they're trying to make their own version of the game that is more silly and more goofy and more fun. And I do believe that inevitably, at some point in the future, we'll get to where you're saying, where the game gets boring or sanitized or figured out. But right now, it's really goofy. And I think that's fun.
It's going to last one more month. It's already not lasting. People are already complaining about triple support. People are complaining about Lunar Snow's ultimate 2 weeks into the game. Like, there's parts of Jank that are fun. There's parts of Jank that are fun. You have to trim the fat. If you don't trim the fat, it's shit. Yeah, he basically just said the game is new in more words. Yeah.
I think it's cool. Anyways, Flats, you can continue.
No, I'm glad you said that because I've never thought this, but when Rivals came out, like all my comment sections were filled with this, where people were saying like, it's kind of weird. Like this game has a lot of things that like specifically I've talked about in the past, like gripes I've had with Overwatch, like things that are in this game that are fixed.
Okay.
And also there was also the stream that me and Necros did where we got to
play
so
close, Flats.
a lot of a couple of the characters
Link them
early
together.
and get to show them off, and it was
You've
a good
got
time.
this.
And like I've never got to speak to the devs. I'm not like in any program. I'm not in any creator program. I'm in no Discords, anything like that. Like when I did that, it was like strictly through my agency. So I've never spoken to them my entire life. But even through that, we had literally the funniest interactions. Like they were just a good time where I had this this actual beef with player 6 where we would literally drop everything we were doing to go to the corner of the map and 1v1 and fight every time. And it was peak hilarity. But my comment section was all filled with like, that's really weird, Flats. Do you notice like there's a lot of things in this game like that you've wanted for years?
Okay.
And it's like I wonder, like, and like I'm not saying this. I'm just
come on, Flats. I believe in you. You can do this.
That I
you
read.
Can link the dots together.
But I did reflect on it and think about it. I never came to a conclusion or anything, but just I thought about it. Where it's like I wonder if they've just been sitting watching all of us for years make content and talk about things about the game, things we didn't like or things that we wanted, and we're like got ahead of the curve because this game does have a lot of similarities. And
no, there are the exact things that were removed from Overwatch with good reason that will need to be removed from this game the moment they get boring, my dude. Like, you were so close. You were so close to like having a brain cell turn on there. Like what? I've been complaining about these things in the past, but they're not they're not causing me problems in this game. Is this because the game is new and I'm learning new things over time? No, it must not be. It must be due to something else. It must be due to just the things being okay in the first place and me not having to complain in the first place and them being ahead of the curve somehow. Not because it's gonna get old real fucking quickly.
When you have a game that you can look at and be like, hey, this game did a lot of great things, but it also had a lot of fuck ups, it can be a warning to your future, where if you're not careful, you could go down the same path. And so
and his takeaway from this of him enjoying the game was he was wrong to complain about these things. That's it, right? That's it.
I like that they stick to their guns, like Boger said before, because whether you like a decision or not, I will always respect somebody who comes into the room and says, I disagree with you because XYZ.
Where's the XYZ? Where's the XYZ, dude?
And it's like, okay, you either got good points there, and it's like, you know what, we're gonna have to agree to disagree, or it's like, I just disagree with you because of these reasons.
No, if they got good points there and it's actually true, you can talk to them about it, right? And change your mind. That's always an option. Or if they got bad points, you give them counterpoints.
And it's
right?
like if they truly believe that they're doing the right thing and they stick to that and they stick to their game plan, you can always respect that more.
What's their game plan? What's good about the high sustain? Tell me, guys, what's good about the high sustain in the game? Is there a single thing good about the ults, like the support ults being like really long? Is that good? People criticize the Overwatch 1 devs for being too stubborn. They weren't too stubborn, they just weren't playing the video game. They weren't developing the video game. I think that's the real answer. That people asked Jeff if he could put in hero bans. He says no because he doesn't care about developing the game. That's probably why he did it. It wasn't for his vision. He wanted the vision of the game to be what it was when it was launched. He didn't want it to change over time because he's an old man who doesn't really like developing these reasonable things. Like, you should clip all these stupid arguments and directly compare them to their reversal 1 or 2 months later. Well, they're not arguments, random. They're not arguments. They're just random waffle.
Anything else? Because I mean, Boger makes a good point. Sometimes Overwatch was a little reactionary. Sometimes. Honestly, I wouldn't even blame them for that. I think they had to be reactionary because of what has happened to that company over the last few years and what they've done.
Whoa, how do we get here? Things like Jank in the game, I've complained about in the past, but it wasn't that bad for Rivals. I'm glad they're sticking to their guns, but Overwatch has been reactionary.
I don't even fault them for that. But I have hope that Rivals will be just fine.
I guess the
okay. I feel like he lost his train of thought halfway through.
The point that is important is like you got to stick on the right issues, and that kind of is the secret sauce, I suppose, of making a good game. Is that lots of game developers will stick on an issue. Like famously, Jeff Kaplan stuck on anti-hero bans, right? Like Jeff was very much like no, there will be no hero bans, and that's my call. And fuck.
Yeah, I feel bad for Jeff. I feel like Jeff was swamped under, and it's probably to Jeff's detriment because Jeff seemed to want creative or authorship control over the game. But the game was at a scale where it really wasn't sustainable for him to have authorship control over the game at the same point as making a game that big. I think that's kind of what happened. The scope of it got out of hand in the type of stuff he had to do, and he wasn't willing to change the way that the game was developed into a way that could handle a bigger scope. What he should have done is he should have got people that he trusted in every single section, and he should have had them make the decisions for him instead of making like all the decisions or all being. They should be like have autonomy to make decisions without him for the most part. He should have had like 4 people below him, and he should have mostly reported to them, and like they should report to him instead of. And that's the thing. Like he wanted to know everyone because he's a good boss, but good bosses like being a good boss and wanting to know everyone only works on a small scale. It doesn't work when you're over 100 employees. It just doesn't because you can't check in people that much. Super passionate, cared a lot. But he didn't care about the game. He cared about his next project, right? Like that's pretty much it. He was shielding his team from a ton of bullshit that didn't get past him. Yeah, I mean, that's what everyone has to do in every company like this. It's always true, but sure. Yeah, no. I agree that Jeff is a good person. I just think that the type of game that Overwatch was demanded a different style of development than Jeff was capable of providing. And that's no fault to him. I think like if he could make Overwatch again, it would be just as good, personally, right?
Fuck you guys. I had that conversation with him where he's like, fuck you guys. You don't know what you're talking about when you say you want hero bans. And now we've seen someone, a set of developers be like, no, actually, we really believe in open queue. We really believe in hero bans no matter what you guys are saying. And they stuck with it, and that decision turned out to be correct. But I guess, again, I'm not trying to be negative, but I do want to bring up potential downfalls and earmark them.
But they can't stick with open queue because they weren't making the game. SVB. They weren't making the damn video game, so nothing matters. It's like all of these arguments about open queue and role lock and hero bans. Yes, I would have liked them to put in hero bans in retrospect, but however, we didn't know that they weren't fucking making the video game.
And I'll take it to either SK or Necros, either of you guys, if you have anything to add on. Is there a dark timeline where they make a decision like this, where they stick on something and they're like, no, you guys are wrong. We think this is good for the game, and actually, we're gonna be yelling at the clouds.
By the way, I love SUV. He's doing really well here.
You listen to us.
Sorry. I want to say it's inevitable that they're gonna mess up. That just happens. But I wonder whether they will walk back on the mess up, because I think the biggest issue with Overwatch is whenever they put out something that was bad, they would never, ever, ever in a million years revert the change that they put out. Instead they would try and figure out a way to fix it. But
yes, and I think part of that was hubris, and part of that was they just didn't fix it. I feel like they didn't know how to fix it, but then again, I feel like the community for the most part didn't know how to fix it immediately. Map rotations, break, yeah, I think that's true. But again, like part of that is they weren't making the video game. They weren't making the video game. And whoever was left in charge of the balance at the time just didn't know how to fix it, and that was that kind of thing.
But they would never just undo it.
So you think that?
I think they got better towards the last year, though. I think they made
in
a little
Overwatch
stupid.
2,
Yeah.
for sure. In Overwatch 2, for sure. But in Overwatch 1,
No, I think I agree entirely with you, Satan. The correct analogy is a parent bird that can't allow his child to take flight on his own terms. For any artist, it's a rough realization that any release art will take a life of its own, and you can't control perception of it. Yes. And I think he wanted complete authorship of everything and knowledge of everything that was going on, or at least to be that type of boss. He didn't want to be a different type of boss. And at the scale that Overwatch was at, in order to make a PvE game, he had to abandon the PvP game, and he decided to do that without releasing authorship of it onto a different team, when realistically, I'm sorry, but like, could he not have tasked Aaron with taking on a team of 20 developers and done better with Overwatch 2, with just the balance and other features like that needed to be put in? Like the PvP, could he not done better? Right? Could he not just had him directly report to him on how it's going? It's hard because he didn't want the bigger team, but he could have took a part of the bigger team. He could have done any updates to it. He just chose not to. And I think part of that is the education of everyone is just growing up over time. Like the Blizzard did not know how to fix things, and now they do know how to fix things. I think that's pretty damn clear. And Rivals has a big bonus from that because we have more knowledge about how this genre works. But I think we only really got to knowing how this genre works. Well, we still don't know because people don't know the flow of bursty cooldowns and sustain other stuff like that, and cleaving tanks clearly. And we don't know about tanks being able to 1v1 and whether like hit markers and kills and stuff like that is the stuff that we should use to incentivize tanks. So we're not all the way there, but I feel like we're 3/4 of the way there at this point, having a complete map of the design space available.
Oh no, never.
So you think that it's going to come down to when these devs have this moment, they're going to have to walk it back, be willing to walk it back, and actually quickly realize their mistake.
Yeah, or I don't know.
I think if you sat Jeff down and explained things to him, he would have gotten it. I don't think Jeff was receptive to any criticism from people outside of his sphere. I think that's one of the things I can say about Jeff from everything I know about him. And from for instance, Frito saying about him saying about Hero Bands, where it's essentially like you think you want it, but you don't as a reaction. I don't think he was quite as receptive as he could be.
Or figure out a way to fix it. Instead of being, you guys just need to figure it out.
Yeah, and he has to actually, like, players don't know what they want. And if somebody did know what was good for the game, he still wouldn't listen to them.
That would hurt.
And there's infinite feedback.
That was a great impression, honestly. Necros, how about you? You were saying something.
Well, I definitely want to say that I think this game, like the way, like some of the features in the game, it definitely feels like it was just made by a bunch of like pissed off Overwatch players. Like a lot of the things in the game do feel that way.
Okay, examples.
But do I think the game is gonna go down a dark path? I think so, but I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I like the fact that the devs are just super confident when it comes to like realizing their plan, right? It sort of instills a sense of hope in me.
I don't think the devs are very confident at all. Like, I don't know where this is coming from, that the devs are super confident. It's literally this one thing of the open queue that they've stuck on because they cannot do it in the decisions they've already made. Like, they cannot do roll lock because they have team ups. And they cannot do roll lock because they have decided they're doing cross like roles. What?
That they know that they're doing the right thing, and I believe in them. Like
the interview, that interview was awful, wasn't it, Squeed? Can somebody link the interview so I can show how bad it was and how non-committal it was to anything?
Even in them, and the game is working really well, then I believe in the devs. I believe that they are going to cook.
That's good. I mean, that's
content.
Good. Go ahead.
I think we'll see how much they cook with the season 1 balance changes. When that one comes out, that's when we know.
I hate Hulk Jump. If the devs for Winton fans, they made Hulk Jump. I have ugly words for them. Do you know what you call something that charges if you're holding a space bar, and then can be used every certain amount of time, but only if you hold the space bar? You call it a cooldown, but more fucking awkward. That's what you call it. It's pretty damn simple. Thank you, Squeed. I'll just show a little bit of it so people can kind of see. For you guys, how has the launch been? No, we don't care about that. We want to care about a question. You've been pretty clear about not wanting to enforce roll lock, which has set hard limits on how many class types, etc., etc. If that conversation becomes loud enough, would you be willing to change your stats? Yes, so we totally get the community is discussing roll lock and roll queue. It's cool. It's really about the game balance. So what we want to offer is more the lineup or more team comp possibilities for our hero design and team up mechanic. So we're taking a little bit more of a Marvel-inspired approach. I think that's a fine answer. But later on, there was a pretty clear question, if I remember, about the disproportionate amount of duelists. Why did the game launch with such a disproportionate amount of duelists? By the way, great question, whoever did this interview. Do you prefer to take a hero you want to make and decide the role after, or is it a wider roster composition important? Is the wider roster composition important? Do you plan to try and make the roles more even, or do you not think it matters? Our choice of heroes will be guided by the overall gameplay experience or theme that we want to create for each season. What does that mean? Are they going to make more supports for the season, or are they just saying, oh, we don't give a shit? So it'll revolve around the season right now. At post-launch, we have 8 Vanguards and 7 Strategists. The team believes that it gives players a solid variety for tactical matchups or team compositions. This just isn't true. I think about 2/3 of the things you can design in the support role are not in the game right now. Maybe that's purposeful, maybe that isn't. I think about half the things you can put into the tank role are not in the game right now. Maybe that's purposeful, maybe it's not. Having more duelists at the moment will definitely enhance the duelist experience, letting players dive a little bit deeper into that aspect. Do you have any plans to put more supports into the game? No, is the answer. This is a bad answer, and You can, like, sure, they're backing up their own decisions. You can always say, oh, I'm so glad they're so confident in their decisions. But this is just, it's basically useless. Like, it's basically a useless answer. He means the character involves the story season. Yeah, he's basically not answering the question. He's saying, the characters are based on the theme for the season, not on the roles. So we don't care, right? Making cross-roll heroes instead of roll queue doesn't do anything to solve useless shit comps or bullshit stat comps or players with wildly different skill levels between roles terrorizing your Ela. Of course, yeah. It's just a straight up worse design all around. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you have to put safeguard and rails in place, such as low sustain and a good gameplay loop for tanks. And I don't think that works in their current format because they don't have bursty cooldowns, they don't have cleaving tanks, and they have really high sustain and really high support ults. If we don't fix that, everything falls apart directly, like instantly. We got Sue Storm for support. because the theme of vampires make it make sense. Well, yeah. What was up with that? They were doing some kind of lore thing for that. I don't like. It was their first release and it made no sense whatsoever. Cleaving tank, Mr. Fantastic. Yes, but they still got the high sustain, so the tanks can go infinite, and so the cleaving tanks are going to break the game. Pretty simple. Fantastic Four versus Dracula. Yeah, what the fuck is that about? Vampires theme season and no blade. Yeah, they were releasing the Fantastic Four, and they were like, at the last minute, they were like, shit, we have to come up with a theme. I guess we made half of this. Just finish it, ship it. Fantastic Four's tower was a big part of the trailer. Pretty sure they're portraying him as a Fantastic Four villain. But is he? Okay, maybe I don't know enough about Fantastic Four to be able to tell you that, but it seems a bit random. Are they talking about the seasonal buffs? Man, the seasonal buffs are just awful, right? Like, is it good to incent? Like, the seasonal buffs are either something they're balancing around so the character's not overpowered or underpowered based on the seasonal buff, right? So it's just a Barnum thing that's just placebo so that more people pick it so you can get the team ups, right? I think that's the best case scenario. In which case, it's a bit weird. Why don't you just give the person that does the team up a actual ability for it? I mean, I guess it allows you to make 30% more team ups because one of the characters in the team up isn't actually getting a team up ability, but whatever. Okay, sure. Or the alternate case is that the team ups are making you more powerful by the team up, which is unbalancing specific heroes on purpose in order to make it so that there's more people in that role. Like, there is in-game lore you can read. Nobody's reading something. This is the game. Unless they have a video, nobody's reading it. I guarantee you nobody's read that shit. It's the same as the Overwatch comics. It's good that it's in the game, but it needs to be implemented. That's not a normal vampire. It's a cosmic vampire. Completely different. Yeah, sure. Okay.
That's when 1,000 buffs to Hell and Hawkeye. 1 million nerfs to Spider-Man.
Oh, no.
10 million buffs to Wolverine.
Make SK silent.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Random.
Where she wants to.
That's
Hero
why
fans will keep that one in check.
Whoa.
So let's move on then, because obviously we can't escape talking about Overwatch, right? It's what we know, and I think it's relevant in a discussion about a game that's clearly so heavily influenced by Overwatch. So we do bring that comparison point in. There's a few you guys have already alluded to it, but there's future decisions.
I just filter out Goombait at this point. Honestly, it's like anime where there's a fan service scene. Skip.
They went the other way with Overwatch, right? And we kind of already alluded to them, but 6v6, open queue, hero bans. Having played them all in Marvel Rivals now,
SK, what was that?
6v6, open queue, hero bans. Having played them all in Marvel Rivals now, do you kind of reflect on them differently? Like, which do you think were the right calls, and which do you think are actually, it didn't matter? Like, let's say you think, actually, I don't really care if it was 6v6 or 5v5. It's actually just the other things that made it work. Like, which points do you think were good? Which points?
Nah, it's more French toast.
Do you think were bad? I'll take the Booger first.
Should the decisions that Overwatch made were good and which were bad?
In general?
About, let's say, these three major decisions, right? Hero ban, 66, and open queue. Like, which were good decisions and which were bad decisions? Between rivals and Overwatch. Like, what do you reflect on?
I think back in the day, I was a really big supporter of rogue queue because the same reasons why people want rogue queue in Marvel Rivals. It was just really annoying dealing with having no supports or no DPS. There were so many games, even in high...
Yeah, and they completely fucked it out the gate. Can somebody say they completely fucked it out the gate, please? Like, is that hard? They made it so that Jeff can't auto-lock heal. Can Jeff just reduce Jeff's healing by like 20 or 30 per second and make it auto-lock? Man, like, can we just cut Jeff from 140 HPS to maybe cut it to like 60 HPS and make it cleave? Is that difficult? Come on, guys, make it auto-lock. Come on. It's the ego bait character. Make it easy to aim. It's not particularly complicated. They're all going to Cloak and Dagger after trying Jeff. They all start the game, try Jeff, realize it's too hard, go to Cloak and Dagger. That sucks, man. That sucks.
Where we'd have like 5 tank players. I'm like, oh my god, bro, we just lose this game. And all of the tank players would be amazing in the game, but like nobody could play DPS or anything or supports, and we would be at a disadvantage. So that kind of sucked. But I
SK is too cute to use a VTuber cam. Yeah, I remember what SK looks like.
Now I think about it, those times with the Roku and like it being added to the game, I think it severely diminished
face blindness thing sometimes.
How silly the games could be and how fun they could be. Because I think it's hard to explain, but the potential for fun with no Roku, the ceiling is much higher, and the lows are much lower without having Roku, like with open queue. And
yes, but the average is more common. And this is the third part, right? So it's the spread out curve, it's the peak curve, right? Whoop. So this is this is open queue, this is rogue queue. All right, there you go. So very simple. Rogue queue has a more gradual curve with less extremes. Open queue has a more tight peak with high extremes.
Oh, I'm getting a call. I'll be right back.
Busy man,
Sorry,
busy
guys.
man, businessman. Oh, it's his food. Okay. Flats. How about you?
Oh.
Okay.
What is up with people in this fucking podcast? Just sit here for like 2.5 hours. Is it that hard?
Hey, sorry, I was so.
Get a
interested
glass
in
of water
thoughts that
before,
now
my dude.
I'm like, okay, all right. All right. Let's start with wait. Was the three of them what? Roll Q.
6v6 roll Q and hero bands.
Okay, let's start with roll Q. Let's not get it twisted. Overwatch.
Yeah, SK's 100% here. Look at that. Look at that down there.
Let's start with roll Q.
Yum, yum, yum.
Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah,
Overwatch
right.
needed roll Q. Roll Q is what held the game together because at the time,
Because they'd already fucked up so bad with the player base distribution between the roles. They screwed that massively, right? They ruined it. They had no idea how to balance the problems that are caused by their bad game balance as well. So we have these two things against each other. We have the support, tank, and DPS variants, right? We have the variants between them, STD, as you say. And then we have the opposite thing, which is the balance of strategies, right? Marvel Rivals cannot fix this. They cannot fix this either. They're in exactly the same place as Overwatch was, right? Exactly the same thing.
unfortunately, don't forget, Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 have legitimate, fundamentally different dev teams. That there's probably less than 40 people that were from the original Overwatch team that still work there.
Not worth scolding people unless it's really disruptive. People are giving him their time. Well, it's not. Yeah, no, it's worth me complaining about. It's not worth SVB mentioning.
And I mean, I don't even know how many people they have on the team these days. But the reason why we needed roll queue was one, we were in goats at that time, but we had just come.
I don't know, like. If I'm watching a podcast and somebody randomly leaves, I may as well skip that podcast until they're back. Because I only watch the podcast to get informed opinions about the things that people are currently discussing from those people, right? If Boga isn't listening to Flats talk, he can't be in the conversation for the next 5 minutes.
On a moth meta for like about a year, right? Which like everybody loved dive, right? Everyone loved dive. It was fun. But what people don't remember is if you didn't have a Mercy on your team, you lost the game. Period. Point blank.
He had
if you
over
loaded into the
100% pick rate.
game-
Over 100.
Yes. Yeah. If you did not have a Mercy, you lost the game at the spawn room. So nobody wanted to play Mercy. Mercy was boring. So you'd always have people social pressuring each other to play this really broken character. You had to play the character. If you don't have the character, you just lose the game.
What's the implication?
Hero bans would have solved that.
Yep.
Going into goats meta,
Or balancing it would have solved it. Either one would have solved it, right?
Brig was designed to give support players something new, something fresh after getting feasted on by Trent.
And do you know what? I actually think Brig is a healthy hero after they fixed it for the 6v6 mode. It took way too long. It took a ridiculous amount of time and it fucked the game for years. But I think once they fixed it, Brig actually became really healthy and actually interesting.
Racers for the last year, and Genji's the year before that in 2016. And Jeff was stubborn. He believed that the game will figure itself out and players will figure out the meta.
No, Jeff was making a PvE game called Overwatch 2.
Okay, good. That's why it took 2 years in like, or it was the one time Sam's not here to not ask him how many Brig nerfs there was.
Do you think the Group Up podcast would be better if it's more like an actual conversation between all of them? I feel like most, if not all of these episodes are just segments of each person talking for their own for the majority of the time. Yeah, I feel like it's SVB goes, hey guys, what's your opinion on this? You. And then they all give their separate opinion. Nobody responds to each other. And then he puts the fucking word up here, debate, right? He puts debate up here. And I'm like, yeah. No, I feel like they should. The best segments are when they're all talking. I guess with this format, you don't even need them to listen to each other speak because they're all just going to give their separate opinions regardless. It's the most boring type of content. People just giving their opinions in a row. You can't debate when it's all yes men all the way down. Well, yeah. You just put debate in the title for clickbaity, honestly. It would be more interesting if people actually engage with each other's views and try to pass them out into an interesting direction. Like, with this, if I was on here, I would want to constantly cut in. I'd have my hand up for 3/4 of it. And that's why I really appreciate Sam when he's on here.
He's probably streaming right now. He just went 21. Like just like something in the void just spoke.
He just
to
pauses
him.
his game and he's like, "Wait, guys, I need to say something."
Yeah. And it's like because
it takes 1 to 2 years of dev engineering work to build a rogue queue matchmaker. I found it interesting that this means that what? Bullshit. 1 to 2 years of dev engineering work. Is that including all the things they put into the thing, like performance-based SR and removed from the game, like performance-based? Like, is that including all the bullshit they put in and took out? Because 1.5 years of that was figuring out the patented engagement optimization. Like, yeah, can I have a list of where that time's going, please? Because Jesus Christ, like, yeah, it does not. I don't know, dude. It's all based on statistics. I'm pretty sure there's statistical models you can just like copy and paste into your game. I don't know how to make it, but I'm pretty sure if I had the internet and 10 hours, I could make a pretty good mock-up. Aaron's posted a link. No way. 1,500 hours? The hell? Are they just all collecting paychecks? It seems like like immediately that seems like a really long estimate if it's only the server component of it. What the hell? See if the Q logic was hard-coded, fucked up code that was not meant to be touched except for the ancient one that has since left the company. No, but you should be able to replace it, right? I mean, the Q logic for Overwatch is pretty simple. I mean, like, you have these people, you get them into a match, right? You take the average SR represents that people, and then you pair it as close as you can to another group, right? And then obviously you have an algorithm to sort between like different pairs of people and what's going to be more optimal or less optimal. And I'm sure I can find that on the internet in like 5 hours of Googling, right? And then you give bonuses based on the difference between these versus expected or unexpected. And you make it so that individual people have pluses or minuses based on win streaks and loss streaks. Like, it's not that hard to make, right? Tearing out the old implementation took 5 times as long. No, I agree with that, but that just seems crazy. That seems like a lot, right? Maybe for a team different. No. Okay, right.
Were slow. Like, they were slow with their patches. It took like once every 3 to 6 months, and it wouldn't be enough. And so they didn't know what to do. And they would buff things like Reaper.
Yeah, they have to factor in, make sure that dog shit marketing push game modes get put into your map rotation. Yeah, do you not like Clash? Are you not enjoying Clash? Because I put Clash to be like 40% of your map pool.
To try to deal with it, because Reaper was the tank buster. Rivals, Wolverine is the tank buster. And it
could also be that there's one dev having to reinvent the whole queue system. Yes, well, as people say, there's like 20 people on the Overwatch team that made Overwatch 1, right? So what happened is they all got fired, and then they brought in a new team, and so it took 1,500 hours in order for the new person to work out what the old person did. Imagine being brought on to salvage that, right? You also forget about the project lead that keeps walking every day if something can be done a bit different, actually. But yeah, but you say yes to the project lead, then you don't do it, right? You say yes every day. Yeah, working on it. Yeah, next day, I'll get it.
So genius that he does percentage-based damage based off your health. So he kills a squishy as fast as he kills a tank. And in Overwatch, when they buffed Reaper super hard, he was just...
Sorry, what? I lost track a second. What the f*** is he talking about?
To try to deal with it, because Reaper was the tank buster. Because they were slow. Like, they were slow with their patches. It took like once every 3 to 6 months, and it wouldn't be enough.
Sure,
and so they didn't know what to do.
You.
And they would buff things like Reaper to try to deal with it, because Reaper was the tank buster. Rivals, Wolverine is the tank buster. And it's so genius that he does percentage-based damage based off your health. So he kills a squishy as fast as he kills a tank. Watch, when they buffed Reaper super hard, he was just steamrolling all the...
No, Flats. No, that's not it. The reason why Reaper was steamrolling low rank lobbies was because they were killing the tanks,
all the metal ranks. And so one day there was a Reaper nerf, and everyone was like, why the fuck did Reaper get nerfed? Reaper's not even good. And I remember that patch, and everyone was just confused.
Reaper was not killing the squishies at low ranks, Flats.
And it was because Reaper was like dominating all of the metal ranks at the time. Rivals kind of thought about that with Wolverine. So I think that OpenQ works.
What the fuck? No, how Reaper dominated the low ranks, exactly the same as Wolverine will dominate the low ranks. What happens is the loop on the character is better at hitting on 1 tank than it is on 3 tanks. The more sustained, the less valid the actual counter is. So what happens is that Reaper goes from being basically unable to do anything into goats, which obviously the character can't do anything into goats because the moment they get anywhere near it, bubble, GM, completely invalidated, so it doesn't do anything. But into a composition with 1 tank or 2 tanks, Reaper fucking feasts. And it's exactly the same with Wolverine. Exactly the same. Man, like, he will just kidnap, like, imagine if you just have a Strange, guys, right? You just have a Strange. Enemy teams on Wolverine. Yep. Yoink. Dead. Nothing you can do. No counterplay. The counterplay's the rest of the team. The rest of the team can't help you because there are no other tanks on the field. There's nobody else to soak that. There's nobody else to stop that. There's nobody else to take the damage so that the supports can get close enough in order to prevent this. Like, this is terrible. This is terrible. This is awful. This is bad. And also 1 tank 3 support comps don't really work as much because you may as well swap on to more DPS. So basically, in that case, for their start 1 tank, they're getting kidnapped. They swap onto DPS, and we end up with 2 support 4 DPS comps against a Wolverine, and then it's literally just a counter swap. So nobody wants to play tank and they're on a solo. So what happens is you either have no tanks, and that's what happened, or you have people trying to win and picking the meta, which is 3 tanks. Yay! Straight back into goats.
In this game a little bit more because at the moment it's still early. Even if a character is a must-pick, absolutely giga broken, or else we're gonna get screwed, we need this character, you can ban them if you don't have someone on your team that plays it at the start screen, because at the start screen, everyone hovers what they want to play. And if they don't hover it, well, then like you probably just end up banning it anyways. Because like if I load into a game and I don't have a Lord Portrait Hela, I'm banning Hela. If I don't have a Lord Portrait Hawkeye, I'm banning Hawkeye, right? If I load into a game and I have a Lord Portrait Iron Man, well, we're playing Hulk.
I don't want to talk about hero bans again.
Man, I'm down to go. You know, so it's like you kind of, and that's another thing. The Lord Portrait's like, I know it's such a small thing. It's something to work for as a casual player, but even in the competitively, it kind of works. So you're like, ooh, that guy plays a lot of that character. Like, he's probably pretty good at it. You know, he's got to this rank, has that. Hey, I trust that guy. So OpenQ.
I watched his back because they took too long to fix goats. Rivals are good because they let you play goats. True and base.
Hero bans literally is going to keep the whole game together. Without hero bans, I think Rivals would have just already kind of fallen off a bit competitively.
Should we get a base counter for each individual person in chat going? There's got to be a way to get that in with a bot, that each individual person can have their base counter for the amount of times I call them base.
Doesn't fucking matter if it was 6v6 or 5v5.
I feel like that would be
the
a
same
good
problem would
addition
happen
to
if we're
stream.
talking Overwatch. Fucking, it's the Q times. It's the Q times more than anything. And I don't want to really. I did a little bit. I went back and played the 6v6 playtest, and like I just want to play Rivals the entire time. But I gave it a good shot, and I genuinely thought the game felt better with 2 tanks. It genuinely did. I thought it felt much better. But it doesn't matter because you're gonna sit in queue for 10-15 minutes if you're in DPS, and it's like that will kill it.
That's just not true. Like that's just not true. It was fine, dude. It was fine. Like what the f are you talking about?
Faster than anything else. So it's like you have your smallest percentage of players, which are tank players in every game. Same thing is true in Rivals, by the way.
Oh, f off. Literally, oh, well, the Warcraft has more less tank players, so every game, right?
Abundance of tank players.
Every time we discuss this, somebody says this, and nobody ever challenges it.
So it's like, there's not all these magic spawning tank players, and people always say like, oh, you gotta make more fun tanks and make more tanks. Doesn't solve it.
Yes, it does! What are you talking about? Yeah, I think there are slightly less tank players, in general, even if it's perfectly balanced, don't get me wrong. But I think tank players are like 1.5 people for every 2. In DPS and support, if you actually make them as fun as each other, right? I don't think it's that far off.
It just doesn't. The thing that solved the support problem in Overwatch was they changed the way support plays. It's more active. It's more DPS-y. So it's like you can play DPS and heal at the same time.
That didn't solve the support problem. There was no support problem. The support problem was that nobody wanted to play support because you remove the type of support they were already doing.
Rivals, you can kind of do that too, which is why like it's more fun. But actually, like if you actually like more play like the super support, like healing style in Rivals, you actually. That's
actually how WoW solved it. They added more roles that could tank, and no surprise they got more tank players. No. Nobody wants to play tank in League, Amon. Nobody likes to play tank in World of Warcraft. Paladins, no tank, like different games, no tank. So no tank here. That's how it works. Don't tell me your brain, please.
I think it's better than the DPS stuff.
We solved the support problem by removing the support playstyle, so DPS players can have a second queue. SK, what are you doing?
Wow, like that's my kind of like little controversial take so far. Is I think it's actually better to be like more heal body than doing damage on support at the moment. If you have a good team, like good tanks and stuff. But regardless, though, that doesn't matter how many players. I think 5. If Rivals was 5v5 or 6v6 or Overwatch was 5v5, 6v6 doesn't matter. The open queue stuff, we needed role queue in Overwatch 1. In hero bans, I think hero bans is literally the secret sauce.
Very.
Can I
bullshit
talk? Also
well, I'm actually going to interrupt you.
No.
Sorry, Bogger. You eat your food because you had a little bit.
Solve tank queues by adding more Jank queens. I have it on good authority that Reinhardt and Winston weren't very popular in Overwatch 1, according to Frito.
Hey, I'm not gonna eat it, but I just
Nobody
wanted
likes to play main tank.
show what the food is.
Yeah, go ahead. Show the food because you had a little bit to say. Flats of the game, Necros.
It's sarma. It's with cabbage leaf.
Nice.
No, I just wanted to say one thing, and that I think it's less about the big changes, whether or not they're good or bad. I think is that they keep changing the fundamentals of the game so often that the people that fall in love with no Rollock and 6v6 and then 5v5, every time they get used to it, they change up the fundamentals, and then people are like, okay, but this.
No, it's that you made the game worse. It's that you made the game strictly worse.
Not the game I want to play, and they get a new.
Like they didn't balance the game for years because they're working on a different game, and then a new development.
Hello,
God, I've lost it. Then a new development came in and just made a different game.
Yeah, I do feel like.
Yeah, I feel like OpenQ comes with the idea that you can flex, but also the idea that you'll be forced to flex, and those two things fight against each other. Honestly, I don't mind with OpenQ versus RollQ. I just think that OpenQ is screwed because they have they have seemingly purposely made a game that will create degenerate compositions.
Wait, in Marvel Rivals?
Well, both. Talk about both.
Okay. In Overwatch, we definitely need to roll. They couldn't figure out how to fix goats. 3 tanks, 3 supports. And
Okay, I'm sorry. What do you mean they couldn't figure out goats?
do you mean?
They could have just nerfed the characters. They're always like
Yeah,
just
but-
a slight bit of nerves, guys. A
They
little bit.
could have.
Boga's doing a debate. So you see this thing Boga's doing right now? That's called debate.
They didn't, and they were never going
Yeah,
to.
it's true. It's true. I just
It was
like
meta for a year and a half or
it's
something.
true, and it's just so annoying because it's like they could have fixed it. Saying that they had to change everything because of goats.
But it's different in Rivals because Rivals high sustain. The fix to goats is to reduce the sustain. The fix to Rivals is to reduce the sustain. But they're not going to be able to do it because they've already they've released the game with this incredibly high sustain, so people are so used to it, and now people won't be able to use it without it. Also, reliable healing. There's no reliable healing sources in the game that do less healing, so people aren't used to being able to get instant top-ups for less heals.
I think it's silly. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want to...
I think that the
You're right,
problem, the difference is that it feels like maybe I'm wrong, and it's been so long, so I could be wrong, but I don't feel like we could get silly with the team comms in Overwatch. Like, in Marvel Rivals, you can run 3 supports, 3 DPS if you want, and still win. Like,
it's a month into the game, it's just gonna get
feels
solved.
good. Or whatever, 1 tank, 3 DPS, whatever, feels good. But in Overwatch,
I agree that the melee DPS do mean you can play a different type. I think melee DPS honestly should go in their own role of melee DPS. Who am I thinking? Right, the distraction type DPS characters should probably go in their own role of pseudo tanks or tank type things. I think hit scan or long range characters that want to stay at range versus other ones, and characters that want to exist in close range to you should be in separate categories in a way, and tank should be there. So I do think the defense offense thing could be split in half, and you can have like Genji Tracer over here, and you can have Cassidy and Venture over here, and then Cassidy maybe like Ashe, Widow, right? It's pretty easy to see that there's this split between the roles, and these are more tank-like. And if you are on one tank, you can fill in for your tank, like the lack of tanking, with these type of characters, right? That should be able to be seen. Like pseudo tanks, obviously, like Mr. Fantastic, Wolverine, Psylocke, Magic. All of these characters from Rivals are pseudo tanks. They can fill in, so it's interesting. Would Venture be a melee DPS? Should call it a diver or flanker? I think divers and flankers fill in for tank presence in the game because they provide distractions from the enemy team, right? They don't provide all the same things as tanks. They can't sustain on point for quite as long, for instance, which is really important in Rivals because there's so much sustain. But they do provide less pressure on your team's backline, if you get what I mean, by providing off-angle pressure.
Felt like if you didn't have 2-2-2, or when Ghost was meta, if you didn't have 3-0-3, then it was just over. There was no, like every single game was mental torture because you had to try and convince your teammates to play a certain hero or a certain role, and if they didn't, GG.
But triple support, triple tank is really fun to play in Rivals, guys.
So yeah, at the time I very much wanted role queue. Like I was so excited for it.
Is there a future where that happens from all Rivals? Because obviously we're very early in, and Flat said kind of hero bans holds it all together. But is there a future where people figure out, okay, this is the optimal thing, and then even when we ban these things, this is the thing you do. Like
this
you have to
did
have.
not exist below GM. I saw goats twice in Masters. I feel like I played in Mid Diamond, and there was the pressure to go goats. I don't think people did very often. I don't think it was actually that good. I think it will be good in Rivals.
3 strategists or whatever.
So maybe the pro scene right now is like 95% 2-2-2 and 5% 1-3-2. But in ranked you can run anything. So I don't know. It depends how.
Is that true? Is Eski right about this?
And the pro scene right now is like 95%
This is 10 days ago.
2-2 and 5% 1-3-2.
Is that true? I feel like the triple support is a little bit more. This is the old patch. I don't think that much has changed about the new patch, but yeah.
But in ranked you can run anything. So I don't know. It depends how good we get at ranked. But
they released win rates from team comps, and 2-2 was the only one above 50%. Well, that's also because people are more used to playing the average team comp, right?
I mean, even in
when people
Overwatch,
are learning,
or in any game, like the pro meta is never the same as the ranked meta. In Valorant, the ranked meta is picking duelists, running it down, and killing everyone. There's no team coordination. There's no double smokes, Viper, Omen, slow play, defaulting.
In the damn game. Like, all the game.
Everyone's picking whatever they want. You're gonna have a Symmetra one trick. You're gonna have a Junkrat one trick.
Very good points. Necros, I'm open up to you on any of this. Like, you know, whether you want to talk about, like, did we need role queue in Overwatch? Does it work better in Rivals for other reasons? Hero bans, 6v6, go ahead.
I want to talk about 6v6. I think 6v6 is absolutely necessary because I feel like it's what contributes to the chaos, and chaos is extremely fun, right? I
think that's true.
Remember, it was towards the end.
That's part of the silly and goofy thing. People have been playing fucking 5v5 Overwatch for so long. That was a big reduction in fun.
End of Overwatch 2, like before Rivals released. I tried. Listen, it might as well be. It might as well be. For me, it is anyway. For now. Not
Rest in peace. Can we get some Fs for Overwatch?
Can we get some Fs for Overwatch? But anyway,
2025.
so a lot of people. Yeah, so a lot of people were very adamant about the fact that like it just wouldn't work. Like none of the Overwatch 2 maps would work in 6v6, but it felt so cool to just see them like populated with people. It just feels like I don't know, the maps just feel incredibly empty with 5 people. With 6, it feels like everything is happening everywhere. It's great, you know, it's fun, it's chaotic. And also another problem with 5v5 is I feel like it's impossible to make the tank role fun to play as and fun to play against because you end up with the raid boss tanks. Like everyone remembers that patch where you just
I mean it was awful to begin with.
Randomly made armor instead of reducing with like 5 damage is like 30%. Yeah, that was not fun for anybody, right? Like it was impossible. It's just no fun to duel a tank. Whereas in the early days of Overwatch, I'll use Genji as an example because I used to play that hero. If I fought a Winston and if I
This is where we were 8 months ago. 8 months ago. SKB nodding along. Come on. Got anything to say now? I remember when SK said 6v6 would be bad as collegiate because they only had 5 PCs. I remember that too. Yeah, I remember that. Is Andrew Tate? No, Andrew Tate's the new Prime Minister of England.
I just absolutely popped off. I could click his head 3 times and that dude was dead. What do you think the odds are of that happening in Overwatch 2? 0, because after like 7 shots. It's just not gonna happen, right? But I really enjoyed those interactions between tanks and DPS in Overwatch 1. Like if the monkey popped off, he could like kind of bubble dance and juke me. But if I popped off, I could absolutely kill him and headshot him. And on top of that, I would get rewarded a lot because you get a lot more ult charge at the time. This is like what's sort of present in Rivals. I feel like tanks are really strong, but you can 1v1 them still. You can absolutely 1v1 them. Are you gonna win? Probably not, because they've got like really good.
There's so many takes from SK back then, weren't there? Man, the Overton window of what's okay to talk about has shifted so far, and everyone's just like brushing under the rug their previous opinions, right?
Defensive tools and they can just stall forever. But if they mess up, you can kill them, and I like that. I feel like that's what's been lost. So I really like the fact that you know, I feel like that's impossible.
Be a reality show. It's not fun. What are you on about? It seems so much fun over there.
5v5.
And I guess open Q adds to that. Go ahead. SK, Bogo, one of you want to go ahead.
I want to add to that. The chaos in Marvel Rivals. It feels like fights are never won. Well, like they're won, but when someone gets a pick in Overwatch 2, everyone just runs away and sits like hides. Because if you fight 4v5, it is
perchance is that a 5v5 problem?
It's over. Like no matter what. But in Marvel Rivals, someone can die at the start of the fight, and then it's still winnable. Then you kill like 3 of them, and you're like 4v2, and then somehow they all come back, and it's winnable for them, and then you're like 2v6, and then it's somehow still winnable for you. It's just you never know who's gonna win a fight. There's always a chance, and I think that's really cool. That's what adds to the fun and the chaos.
Good point, SK.
And I was wrong. I'll leave it forever. Right.
I'm saying that I feel like I really enjoy the way vanguards are in Marvel Rivals compared to how tanks are in Overwatch, because tanks in Overwatch 2 feel like really big DPS characters that are just there to do damage.
I think Boga was always on the 6v6 train, right? I'm not 100% sure. I think Boga was. I know Necros was.
I don't want to play tank. I don't want to play damage. I want to play DPS. I want to. Back in the day, with Reinhardt, it was all about the Rein v Rein and outplaying people. Now it's just go in the backline, swing at them, and then kill them. And it's boring, okay? And
thank fuck, Jesus Christ, man. Do I hear SK going, yeah, like 6v6 lean, but I think he was quiet about it? It's so sad, isn't it? Right? It's so sad that all of these people have exactly the right opinions the moment they're allowed to say it without causing relationship problems with Overwatch, right?
And then on Winston,
SK had the wrong opinion, but you know.
On Winston, it used to be, you know, I farm the nano boost.
I fought like flats. I don't remember.
Farm, you know, I create space. I jump them softly. But now, jump in, kill them, and if you don't, you die, and you lose the game. And it's like, I don't want to play DPS. I want to play tank. That's why I really like vanguards, because the vanguards are really, like, you can kill the entire team, but for you to kill the entire team, they either first need to misplay and you punish them. Like, tanks are really scary if you make a mistake, or 2, you need to play really well, and that's really fun. But if you make a mistake, you get punished for it. In Overwatch, you either explode instantly or nothing happens because of your mistake. So like, I don't know. I agree with Necros a lot. I feel like if I make a mistake and I die...
Yeah, I think the tanks are very single target focused, so the tanks are very boring, in my opinion. There's no input into the tanks. When you make a mistake on tanks in Rivals, I feel like you die instantly. Or you die arbitrarily at random, because you have this thing where, like, if 2 people are supporting you, you're absolutely fine, but if 1 person or 0 people are supporting you, you die instantly, and the game has loads of distractions like melee heroes going into your backline. right? I think that's a massive issue with tanky in the game, and I think that's made a lot worse by the fact there's no bursty cooldowns to be able to put into the tank. The off tank has no pressure to be able to give you, but I feel like they did that on purpose in order to stop goats from forming, because they don't realize what actually keeps sustain comps forming, which isn't anything else. It's the fact that you can't do anything to them because they have so much sustain. It's really weird.
Dive a Genji with Winston, I should get punished for it. But if I dive a Genji on Winston right now, this guy needs to fight me for 30 minutes to even deal half my HP.
Like he
genuinely, the only option for a Genji is to run away. And what happens is, it's literally, it's less about who's better and who outplays who. It's a lot more about picking the right character and just doing the one thing it's designed for, and that's it. There's no, like, there's nothing to it. Like, I'll play Winston, they'll go Mauga. I'll swap off Winston. Like, I'll go Winston, hard focus the Genji. Genji can't do anything. And then people that actually enjoy these characters, that have a lot of skill ceiling, they can't play them because the enemy team just goes characters that are way easier and get way more value and just counter your existence. So you need to fall in line with the meta. But in Marvel Rivals, it's like, except in really high level play and pro play, Necros can still get value from a dogshit character like Spider-Man, because we can ban characters that counter him, and I can pick Venom to give him another buff, and then Necros can actually do something, and that's really cool because the character is really fun. But it's really hard to get value.
You were referencing.
Oh no, I absolutely agree. It's super cool.
I actually talked about it earlier.
And it's like another reason why the hero bans are awesome is we can ban, like, for example, we kept banning like Luna Snow because she had like the team up with Namor, and he can like spawn those icy turrets, which are just the bane of your existence.
I love it when there's two characters you could ban that makes my main Namor completely useless. Isn't that fun, right? So I originally played up to Diamond on Namor, and then I got to Diamond and I couldn't play the character anymore because people were banning Luna because Luna was annoying. Yay! And so do you know what I did? I stopped playing the game for a couple of days because I couldn't play the character I wanted to play. Yay. Spider-Man is dog shit. Spider-Man has to be dog shit because he skipped staging. If there's a meta where Spider-Man isn't dog shit, there'll be problems.
And say how stupid Luna Snow as a character is. I don't mind getting one-shot by Hawkeye as much as I mind sitting AFK for 12 seconds.
Rivals have purposely put no main tanks or cleaving tanks into the game. That's what they've done. And it does work in a way, but also it means that they have to buff the off-tank to such a degree that they always win the DPS duels. And I think Bogus forgot that if you have a Strange versus any character in the game, Strange will always win that character, right? Like, you have a Strange versus a Hela. If they're in close range, Strange wins the fight. Guaranteed. And that's the same with every single tank. Like, every tank always wins that at all times. And that's problematic because they had to make those tanks bigger because they had to guarantee that the tanks wouldn't fold immediately, so nobody wanted to play it, and that was like a thing they talked. I think the devs have played it really well for public perception early on in the game, don't get me wrong, but I think they've kind of fucked it in terms of creating a sustainable model for a game.
Seconds. It is absolutely so boring. I'd rather die and respawn than sit.
Loki?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think it only gets bad when there's Loki. When there's Loki and it's 24 seconds, all right, that's it. I'm done.
Triple support. Loki, Luna, Mantis,
and then
30
32
seconds. And then by the time you can get them, Luna has farmed another ult. And you're like, oh my god, bro.
So we can see already some of the gripes emerging. I guess I wanted the thing I wanted to...
I'm glad they're actually bringing up a couple of things, like the lowest hanging fruit, right? They're plucking it off the tree, the fully formed stuff.
Is that I guess you can have sympathy with
take like a month before the rest of the stuff comes out.
Because what it sounds like, what you guys are saying, is that in order to solve certain problems, they created deeper ones, right? So if we can look back at OpenQ, right? So the problem with OpenQ was these unbalanced games, right? Like you can say like, oh, well, sometimes we were having one support and one DPS, one tank and 4 DPS, whatever. And so to try and solve that, they went to roll queue to try and then when roll queue with Q times, they were like, okay, well, if we got to solve that, we got to remove a tank. So
yeah, they acknowledge the game has some flaws, unlike Shield Mito. I feel like I've heard Sam say something about Luna Snow being annoying. He's been saying on Twitter recently, what was that? Somebody posted in general. Scrolling. Somebody posted in general. Something that Sam said, I think. Maybe it's not in general, maybe it's in a different channel. I'm not going to go find it if it's in a different channel. Oh, I give up. Okay, somebody posted him complaining about sustain the other day. So
remove a tank, goes 5v5, then to 5v5. Well, now the tank is getting blown up, so they buff the tank. Oh, well, now the tank, now it's fucking miserable, it's boring, nobody likes playing against tank. Flats, you're itching to say something, so do you have sympathy or not? You're like, no, fuck this.
It's just funny, because the only way to make what ways can you make support, what ways can you stop triple support becoming meta, right? How can you stop it? I guess that's my question. You can only stop it by making it so that there's less peel in the game, or making it so there's less sustain in the game, right? Isn't that true? And if you do either of those things, what happens? The tanks at the front die almost instantly. Anti-nade? I blocked it with my Strange Shield. Screw you, Ammon. I guess, yeah. Is that it? Things that deny healing? Is that it? Arbitrary global healing reduction for running more than 2? Global heating reduction running more than 2. I guess that works. Yeah, that does work. That's just it's an inelegant solution, and I don't like it, but it works, yeah. Makes sustain a lot worse. If you make sustain a lot worse, the tanks will evaporate, and nobody will like playing tanks, in my opinion, because there's already problems with those tanks being able to do enough right now, isn't there? Like, tanks feel like they don't do very much. Don't you agree? Unless they have infinite resources. I counter many supports with Bastion, can't heal his damage fast enough. Yeah, that's a good low rank or middle rank solution. Add armor health? As if. Unless you're going to do food mobile and add items, it gives sustain on their own. Turn support into DPS so they can be more effective at doing damage than sustaining. Add armor health and lower sustain. You need a lot of things in order to be able to lower sustain in this game, I think. I think you need 3 different burst options split over different heroes in order to be able to do it. I think sustain is just about keeping the tank roll functioning. Don't get me wrong, you can nerf the ults, that's fine. Like, you can straight up nerf the ults and it won't cause any negative problems. I'm not couching that, that's fine.
Oh,
Hey guys, is this the one time where my skin doesn't look incredibly pale? Maybe I should wear black jumper more often.
actually more annoyed. I'm actually kind of just pissed at this point, right? Because, like, dude, do you remember me and you sitting down and arguing the day it got announced that 5v5 was coming out? And it's like, you know what it is? We never did the actual easy, the solution. Everybody was like, let's try this. We always did the Blizzard fucking way. And I'll give you a good example even more recently.
Oh, the Blizzard way was we got 2 dev hours for this game this month.
We talked about the hard counters and the, you know, like, if you are really good on Genji, I don't give a fuck. I can pick Winston and you just can't play the fucking game. Good luck to you. Their way of dealing with the hard counters, instead of limiting swaps or hero bans or talking about all these other things or talking about, like, hero design needing to change because, like, certain heroes just fundamentally fucking suck off the, like, they just suck right out of the gate. Like, characters like Orisa, Mauga, they're just fucking terrible and they just don't admit it. And, like, I used to play Siege. And there was a character that came out called Clash, and it was a defender,
you always said Hawkeye then.
Operator shield, and they could just run at you and just and tase you, and there's nothing you could do about it. You died. They took them out of the game.
Rival dev's good because they insist on doing it their way. Overwatch dev bad because they insist on doing it their way.
For like a year to figure out how to fix them.
Are you just saying that there are bad things in games? What's the point here?
They never admit their fucking problems. And so you know what happened with the counters? We are all the time about how characters like Widow are just fucking annoying.
It's so distracting. SK's VTuber model nodding.
Instead of dealing with the issue, we hide when you swap them for 15 seconds. And so that caused a new problem.
To be fair, they hid when you swap Widow for 15 seconds because it was making the it was making the devs look very silly when you posted your like 5-minute video of the other tank swapping every time you swapped. That's why they changed it. Honestly, it was a it's a public perception thing more than anything.
Where if they swap Widow last fight, there's a fucking question mark, and you're like, they swapped. What did they swap to? Somebody disappeared. It's like.
Actually, I was so confused about that because I was playing the game.
Well, instead,
and then I was like, did they leave? What's going on? I was like, what is happening? I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know it was happening.
Well, it's also because they announced it and then they said it was in the patch and then it wasn't in the patch and then they shadow released it the next month without mentioning anything. That's one of the reasons why people didn't know.
Every time there's an issue or something that's a big problem, we do some fucking ass backwards way instead of going after the actual problem.
What fixes, man? What fixes? Like Rogue Q was an ass backwards way? Question mark, was it? I mean, it was Rogue Q was fucked from the start because they didn't have good like tank and support numbers. I think that's pretty clear. I don't think it was an option because we don't have good tank and support numbers. But aside from that, like, yeah, I don't think this fits into any part of the discussion, and honestly.
After so many years, people get sick of it, right? And while I have the mic for a second, I'm going to hijack for like 2 seconds. There's two really unique things that are really great about Rivals.
You know what? They can't add Rollock or Rogue Q to Rivals, so you're okay. They can't add it. The team ups just don't permit it, and the fact that adding hybrid heroes obviously signals that they won't ever do it.
Actually, great about Rivals, the cart moves on its own, because in 5v5 Overwatch, nobody pushes the fucking cart, right? It used to be the off tank's job, right? Like you'd have your main tank hold forward.
Yeah, because being in a fight of the enemy team has 5 players and you have 4 players is a massive disadvantage. Whereas in 6v6, the enemy team has 5 players. The enemy team has 6 players and you have 5 players. Was fun texture, right? So that's the problem with cart. Like they remove the quality of payload by doing that.
Tank would either you hold with them and then a support holds. That was like the true way, right? Like that's like the pro, like the high GM, like, you know, that was the way you actually are supposed to do it, right?
The cart moving on its own is actually cool. I think it's fine-ish. I don't mind it too much, but I feel like it invalidates the mode of payload, and I think people don't really get what the mode of payload is. The mode of payload is pretty simple. It's that you have to be here, right? There's an objective here. So in order to be able to get control over the forward staging on the map, what happens is you can only do that with 5 people. okay? That's on purpose. That's a good thing. Do you know why it is? Because sometimes there's forward staging that is good enough that it can block the enemy team. You know that Venom map, right? Where the payload is the payload kind of goes down a track like this. It goes like that, and the end is like goes there, and there's a wall there, and then there's a choke here, right? There's a room, right? It's like this. Everyone know the map? There's a door here. Yeah, a little bit destructible wall there. There's high ground here. There's high ground over here. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you know the map? Yeah. And there's that wall that you can move out that goes down here and blocks this off. Yeah. Well, the payload moves itself, so it's going to be a couple of weeks before. Shall I find it? Shall I find it? It's going to be a couple of weeks before people realize that you once you're here, or maybe even once you're here. Yup. Your entire team just runs down, blocks this corner. There's nothing the enemy team can do, right? There's nothing the enemy team can do. It's just to it. Like, the point... Go away. I'll load it up. Because this is probably pretty interesting for a couple of people. They purposely made a choke at the end of the payload, and because the payload moves itself, you can choke that choke with 6 players. Guarantee that's going to become a strategy. And you have an account alert? Thank you, Tiefling. That's it telling me that I no longer have Marvel Rivals playtest, and it's trying to get me to undownload it, but I keep not doing it. I hope I have it in my replays. So basically, the payload moving on its own kind of invalidates the payload moving on its own kind of invalidates. But that was kind of the point, right? Having the payload moving below the castle and Eichenwald means that you can't full hold Eichenwald, right? That's the point of it. That's the texture. Like, that's the point. You can't get forward positioning. You can't completely invalidate the map by skipping stuff. And also, as you go forward, your concave gets slower. That's the other thing for payload, but that works here anyway. Yes, Overwatch should bring back to regular Overwatch. There's no gain to being Overwatch 2. I don't think that changing back to Overwatch will actually fix everything, but I don't think staying in Overwatch 2 will help anything. So, yeah, it's hard. What's the map? What's the map called? Symbiotic Surface? That sounds about right. Play. I think that's the map. By the way, I've never been in a spectator for this game. How do I go to that? How do I get free cam? ZX seems to toggle POV. Oh, there you go. There's free cam. How do I lock my mouse? How do I lock my mouse? Man, this game looks like absolute ass in the replay viewer, man. Look how bad this game looks. Controls bottom right. Right mouse, left hold. What? Oh my god. What? The fucking sensitivity? Jesus Christ. The controls on this are ass. Doesn't the game just look really bad from third person perspective, right? Symbiote map's kind of low quality, but it's not about the individual map, it's about the general rule, right? And the general rule is that not having one person on the payload means that you can do bullshit like this. So I'm talking about this section, right? If you get to about here, the payload's going to move it on its own. So we're going to slowly go over here because I don't know how to go faster. So I guarantee general map stuff is going to be they come in here, they block this, the enemy team tries to go through it over and over and over again. As you know, there's no real way, like you can go up this, but really that's just for flankers, it's not for an entire team, because this is really awkward to use for an entire team, because it's just going to be like a one ladder. All you do is you leave the payload, you go hold this room as a 6. This is a flanking route, this isn't really a rotation route, this is really bad to rotate in if you're the enemy team. And also, people don't tend to do it because it's a much longer run. Honestly, this run back from this payload is ridiculous. That's one thing that they... Oh, look, you can go outside the bounds. Yeah, so all that's going to happen is people are going to abandon the payload and full hold here with a 6. And the way that you stop that is you... And like, what the hell are they doing? Like, genuinely, what the hell are they doing with this wall? This wall is awful, right? This is a wall that extends over to this side, if anyone doesn't know. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It makes no sense. I'll see if I can... scroll forward to when people actually hit. So right now, there's no reason for the team to not push. Oh look, it's me. So right now, when we get to here, and we're holding this, we won the point, okay? You just won it. There's nothing the enemy team can do. But you can do this when the payload's all the way back around there, because it moves by itself. Okay, that was the point. That was a really long thing. I can do more map stuff in the future for jank and bad stuff designed. I've seen people do it on first day. Exactly. Yeah, it's terrible design. Like, really bad. Maybe you can fix it by making those walls breakable. But if you're able to hold a choke like that as a 6, it doesn't fix it in general, because being able to hold a choke is still better. If somebody has to walk through a choke against you, that's bad for them.
But for most players, one tank would hold forward, one tank would hold back, and then the supports and DPS would all go high ground. They all stand together, right?
Yeah, I think I dislike them. They could fix it by opening the door, I guess, but...
Now there's nobody to push the thing. In Rivals, it pushes itself. If nobody's on it, that thing keeps moving. It's great. So it's like...
No, it's not great. It's worse. It's significantly worse, Flats.
Nobody's pushing it.
And you can make it move a lot slower, I guess, and it would be fine, but I don't like it.
It's like, it's okay. It'll move on its own. I don't have to go back. Like, you know, if somebody wants to go back and push it a little bit faster, that's great.
Man, I love it when the game plays itself. It's so much fun.
But even beyond that, too, we're all talking about the team-ups. It encourages team play. It encourages you to work together. Because in Overwatch, the reason why we had a roll queue, Bugger, you missed it. Like,
no, team-ups do not encourage people to work together. Fuck off, Flats. It encourages people to pick around each other, yes. And I do agree as well that if people are picked around each other, they're more inclined to not be an asshole to each other at the start, right? I agree with that. But in the game, the team-ups really have no relation to each individual hero, right? They just have no individual hero relation.
SK was talking about it earlier. You only caught the back half about goats. The reason why I was saying roll queue was necessary is like we just come out of Moth meta.
If the walls are breakable, there's nothing stopping Pierce Hummel from making a hole and sneaking to stop the payload. The walls aren't breakable apart from the if you're attacking into that past the wall, that one straightforward is breakable. But yeah, it's not no relevant walls breakable there.
Like Moth meta was 100% pick rate. If you didn't pick Mercy, you lost the game. So people would always force you to pick Mercy. Like you don't have Mercy, you just lose. And so that and then into
team ups exist to pretend there's synergy. I agree.
But in Rivals though, if somebody asks you to pick another character, it's typically for a team up. And then you get a benefit too. So it's like, oh, if I pick this character,
how do you adjust the balance of 5v5 to make 5v4 a closer outcome? You can't. It's just a numbers thing. 5v4 is going to have a 20% disadvantage, right? Or a 20% advantage. That's just how it works. Like 25% advantage. Like, you can't do anything about it. It's just
15% extra damage. Oh, if I pick this character, I get a whole other ability I get to use. Like, oh, and this ability, it's actually really strong and help me survive longer. It helps me get kills. And it's like, by working together, you both mutually benefit instead of one person gets screwed and they're just like taking one for the team. It's genius.
No, it's not, Flats. You're just glazing for no reason.
Just interject here. Anchors have their passive buffs always. They don't get a benefit from the team ups.
Yeah, people don't know that.
Yeah, people don't know that. But you always have the anchor.
This is 20 days after the game was released, by the way, this was filmed.
It's so weird that it's not clear. Because it says you get a buff, and you're like, oh, I get a buff, you get a team up, but you always have the buff. So
can you explain what the anchor is? Because people might not even know what that means.
The anchor is like Hulk is an anchor, like the character that allows for the team up to happen.
People beg for the anchor. And the anchors theoretically are just more powerful than regular heroes, right? So there's this kind of thing where if the support anchor changes, you're inclined to always pick the support anchor and not pick your main, because sometimes your main's going to be strictly worse than other characters, right?
In the first place, because if you have Mantis and Star-Lord, for example, you don't have the team up. Or if you have Doctor Strange and Iron Man.
66 the ideal numbers in any hero shooter. I don't see a reason why 7v7 isn't a good number. I think the reason why we didn't do that in Overwatch was because the devs were specifically talking about they were specifically talking about issues with performance, right? And 7v7 also is 6v6 is enough people hating on one person becomes unreasonable, right? It's 7v7. 7v1 is unreasonable. 6v1 is slightly more reasonable. And I think like it's probably the perfect middle ground between peel versus being able to instantly blow up. If it's 7v7 and you're slightly forward as a tank, you can die so fast, right? So fast. 7v7 will be super cramped. I kind of agree with that, yeah. The point is that in these type of games, the map design is incentivizing you to group up and all interact together. Not necessarily in a group, but spread out across a small portion of the map. You're all interacting at the same period of time.
You don't have the team up. But if you have Hulk in any of those two characters, then you have the team up. And Hulk has bonus HP as an anchor, but that's not an anchor bonus, that's a seasonal buff. So it's actually kind of weird because at the end of the season, he's going to lose
You're balancing the amount of degenerate effects you can stack, like sustain, like bursty denial, like bursty aggressive options, like angular support, those kind of things. You're balancing them versus the amount of just hate you can have on one individual character. I think in 7v7, like Reinhardt, for instance, if he charged anywhere would vanish, right? And you can't really stop that.
150 HP,
it's a little
which I think he's making really bad. Anyways, I agree with Flats. I think I find his passion for Rainbow Six Siege balance really funny. I feel like he has PTSD from that. I feel like he's been traumatized multiple times from multiple games.
It's been a long road.
Actually, when you started saying it, people in chat was like, fuck that character. I didn't even know that character, but everyone agreed with you. They're all like, fuck that.
Yeah, and I think they've done really good at CompTF2 from making it so distinct from regular TF2 that the metas can't filter down, right? And that's why I do say that random crits and stuff like that in TF2 is really smart, because it makes it so that the metas aren't one-to-one applicable, so they can't. And don't get me wrong, TF2 in a way is not applicable to like metas filtering down because it's an old game, and therefore there's less content about it online and other stuff like that. The breaking the game mechanism isn't in full gear like it is with Rivals and Overwatch, and so the average player doesn't really know about what's actually good, right? But yeah,
character.
Put it in the vault for a little bit. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Sorry.
Well, flats balls. SK, go ahead.
An underrated part about Marvel Rivals is the map design. There's a flank all the time. You can stand on pretty much anything. Like, try playing Black
I
Panther.
find it really weird, like there's a flank all the time. There's flanks that completely stop you being able to fight off the flanks all the time, right? There's like 3 or 4 flanks, so there's no way to mark the flank quite a lot of the time. And I think what that means is that if you can't mark the flank, there's always access to your backline without having to fight for it, which is like, it makes the flankers really like do or die. Like either they're able to get a kill into your backline or they're not able to get a kill into your backline, and it all demands on attention and peel because there is nothing proactive you can do to stop the flankers, right? And I think that's a problem. If there's like 1 or 2 angles, you can mark those 1 or 2 angles, go for an aggressive duel on those angles, and the flankers can't necessarily get in, or you can design them to be stronger once they do get in because they have to get past that mark first, right? So you can actually make them better once they get in if you actually make it so that the map design doesn't always allow them in. And yeah, so if they can always get into the backline, you need to stack up support and denial to the point where, I learned Tracer, I need to know the maps pretty well. If I play Magic, I can just walk around and go for backline because all roads lead to it. Yeah. How does the sustain work into that? Because the sustain in the game is high enough that it constitutes bursty denial. Just left click from any hero denies a melee DPS getting on them. Whereas in Overwatch, left click from Mercy, for instance, doesn't deny melee DPS getting on somebody necessarily or killing them through the healing. Imagine if Mercy's healing beam was 100 HPS instead of 60. If a Genji got onto somebody, they would never die if Mercy paid attention to them, right? That's the difference. So the sustain works on top of the defensive cooldowns to kind of like, it works the get off me ability because it's so high on its own.
Panther on Circuit Royale in Overwatch or Junkertown. It's just not going to happen. But if like the map designs allow all of these melee characters or unique characters to be playable into any.
Yeah, and the other thing is the melee characters distract the supports who are supposed to be supporting the tanks because the tanks demand all the support because they can't do anything unless they get all of the throughput. So the tanks healing into them goes wildly up and down constantly, and it's just this awful system. Like the one-dimensional gameplay is so bad.
And that is like
There's
a
no
huge part of why the game is fun.
So I just disagree entirely. Like I'm on the opposite side.
I agree with everything you guys said, but like hero bands is the glue that keeps everything together. It's like genuinely just hero bands.
Yeah, well, you need a lot of glue if your fucking entire house is built of sticks and tape, don't you? Like you gotta have glue as well. You can't just build a house with sticks and tape.
Yep.
If Overwatch introduced hero bands, like 2 bands per team, right now I would go back and play rank. I would. The game would be the game. I would play it.
I wouldn't.
18 hours of Rivals. You're not getting addicted allegations.
Listen, I would go back and play Overwatch, but there's no way I'll play Overwatch, queue up Winston, for example, and then
Hero bands would make Overwatch worse. That's my genuine opinion. In its current state, hero bands would make it worse. In the 6v6 format that Blizzard have made, it would make it marginally better. In my 6v6 code, it would make it significantly worse. That's my genuine opinion. I think because we're playing pugs in my code, it wouldn't make it that much worse because it's hating on individual metas more so than it is on the average thing the enemy team is playing from the general meta. So it's hating on like people and characters that are good. But yeah, I think hero bands would find a massive plus. Probably fine. Yeah, probably fine.
Get Mauga Reaper on the enemy team and fucking Zen, Bap, or whatever else, or Hazard now. I wouldn't like even now because Hazard is the most played tank by a long shot. I just saw the screenshots. You can just ban Hazard if there were bans, and then people would just go back to playing whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's a balanced debt. You have to deal with that debt or the bucket holding all those problems. Heroes will overflow. Yeah.
So, just hero bans are just.
And do you know what? If you're doing a lot of stuff at the same time and you're unbalancing it and you don't know what you're doing, a balanced debt is a good thing to be able to have, right? It's a good thing to be able to have. But when you have a bucket that can be filled up with balanced debt, you're implied to always use the bucket. because there's no reason not to use the bucket, right? I mean, like, we got the bucket. What do we need to fix this right now? I think it's being banned relatively often. It's been bucket reasonably, so I guess we'll reduce it a little bit. And then you're at if you use the pick rates and the ban rates, you're at the mercy of what people think is good versus what is actually good, and you're not actually necessarily using your own ideas about it. But it's a hard one. It's all intertwined.
The end has it, you know? You feel me? And then they go Risa.
I mean, it is very vindicating as someone who was wanting this for a long time to see how effective it is and how all the arguments against hero bans are kind of failed in the sense of like, oh, there'll be another hero ban meta and this, we don't have enough heroes, or Marvel Rivals had even less heroes and
I agree. It's so maddening that they had so many arguments and then Marvel Rivals like, you know what?